Light them up. And they're off. Mine was already opened. Got this fucking fantastic Market Garden Brewery. Camera's on my right today. Shandy, a lemon shandy. Thank you, Chris Smith.
You got it, buddy.
This thing is, again, we've mentioned this before, brewed and canned in Cleveland, Ohio. This motherfucker, this is the best shandy. This thing is, it's so good. Many shandies taste like somebody took a low-powered beer and then just like put lemon juice in it or whatever. No, this thing's really good. Like, you can tell they're using like whole fruit in this thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
That Miller or Bud Light lemonade that I had was just garbage.
It was very tough. And you know what? There's not too many things that you can do with Bud Light to
Bud Light
rescue
lime
it.
is fine, but
Yeah.
the Bud Light lemonade
it back
and
from
Bud
the
Light
edge.
orange is just way too much.
Terrible. To my left is
Nick Divitto,
who literally just put a piece of meat in his mouth. I was like, fuck you, Nick.
it's good too.
It is good, yeah. So this is more charcuterie. And to his left,
Chris Smith,
who brought the charcuterie.
smoked sausage from 2017.
Oh, yeah. So
Home smoked.
3
homemade,
years.
in cryovac in the freezer. Just thawed it out about 3 or 4 days ago.
It is fantastic.
Cleaning out the freezer. Got some freezer meat.
That's it. How would you rate it on a scale of 9 to 10?
I was going to say, on a scale to awesome to better than awesome, it's really good. And it's funny because it does not have any heat to it. There's no spiciness, but there's really, really good flavor. And the fat ratio is really good. So it gives you something nice to chew on, and there's a lot of reward to it. I love it.
Got some
Sounds like
smoke.
you're talking about sweater meat. Just saying.
Yeah, and so to his left,
Steve Hoffert.
drinking a Krabby's. Totally appropriate.
Yeah.
There you go. Look at that. Yeah. It should be called the fucking Grumpy shit.
Yeah. If they had Grumpies, that's what
Yeah,
it'd be.
Grumpy.
Not grumpy.
I'm not grumpy. God damn it, I'm not grumpy. Yeah. So, and to his left,
Johnny Mac.
drinking.
Well, I'm finishing off my goggle fogger, but I'm having a delicious. This is a domestic beer brewed right out in Colorado, I think. It's all natural. It's a lighter type of what I would call Pilsner, but it has notes of strawberry.
I might even
and,
call that a Radler.
little notes of like a strawberry and
Right.
lemonade aftertaste. It's the Natter Days
Natter Days.
from 2017.
It was. It is also.
To go with
it
the
is.
charcuterie.
It is. That is like the Natty Days, the Natter Days 30 pack. That is the magic
Just
oil
keeps
that keeps
giving
it.
it.
Right. Yeah, it is.
It's like the
It's a
boat
fish
for
and
fishes.
It is.
I think it actually tastes better though than the newer ones that I bought some like
Oh yeah.
the pounders.
Yeah.
This is a little more. There's a little more to it. It's not as watered down.
Oh, maybe they changed the recipe.
But that was the last one in that particular drawer.
Oh, it was? Then that might be the last one of that 30 pack.
Wow.
So that might be the end of the 30 pack from last summer.
How many podcasts did that survive?
Quite a few.
Yeah.
Well, it's not exactly my always go-to beer.
Right.
So none of those get drank during the work week.
Right.
And,
they say, give a man a beer, he drinks for a day.
That's right.
Teach a man to brew.
Teach a man to
he
brew.
drinks for the rest of his life.
I'd like to point out that I noticed
never gives
that
up.
Phil didn't ask everybody what they rode today.
No.
And there's probably a very solid reason for that.
Yeah. If you would have rode your motorbike today, you'd have been riding upstream with the fishes. Yeah. It was motherfucking moist.
It's the first time I haven't ridden for 2 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and now that being said, to his left, we'll do a round first.
Steve Sleepy.
And also just mouthful of popcorn, so that's good.
right.
Good timing. We count ourselves blessed. I mean, our friends in Santa Cruz are dealing with wildfires and lightning that just keeps causing things to keep burning. And our friends in Narlands and our friends in Texas are dealing with a hurricane, on shore and creating all kinds of problems. And we're here in Cleveland. What we've had we've had a bizarre weirdo summer storm that lasted all fucking day. And it's been a gully washer, as my grandfather would say. It has not stopped, and it's been motherfucking wet. I did ride several bikes today.
I think we have a casualty tonight too. Dan Kromke reporting basement flooding.
Yeah.
And unfortunately wasn't able to be here.
And Dr. Waters is taking care of our basement flooding.
Does everybody do a slow trombone for Daniel Kromke?
It's
Well, and he said his basement flooded. That was where his man cave was.
Yes.
All his stuff.
all of his cool shit was. Yeah.
Hope Hopefully, it's just a little soggy and it's not
not
terrible or
fucked.
anything. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Even 2 inches though in your basement, that means all the carpeting's
All
going
the
to come
carpet's
out.
gotta come out.
If he's got a finished basement, that means it's going to soak the
Baseboards.
drywall up at least
Yep.
a foot and stuff. Like it can be a real mess if you have a nice basement.
Yeah, I'm hoping that
He does.
we know where our leaks are. We know where our problems are in our basement, and we've kind of routed things into the sump pump, and so we've got a decent system, but you do have to kind of play it. You got to work it.
So yours is coming from the walls?
Mine's
Like-
coming from the walls.
Yeah, not up
Yeah.
through the...
So I got B-Dry basement waterproofing system. Yeah, right. Thank God. We don't know, right? I've got B-Dry basement waterproofing on 3 of my 4 walls, but one of my walls B-Dry couldn't do because the wall is it's got a bathroom against it and a shower and all kinds of other shit. So we just haven't committed to doing that wall yet. So 3/4 of my basement all runs into perforated piping along the base that runs into a crock that has a sump pump out. This is, hydrodynamics with ClevelandMoto. But one wall does leak like a son of a bitch. And so we've kind of got a system of things laid out to channel those leaks to the floor drains.
Sandbags.
Pretty much, yeah. They're small sandbags, and they're meant to capture that water. Now, one half of my basement is linoleum, tile. The other half of my basement is carpeted and finished. So we want to protect the carpeted and finished side. So the floor drains are located in such a way that we can catch that before it goes that way. So hopefully we're good.
So I used to go to council meetings
Yeah.
in a city that's close to this city.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I used to work for that city. And this one day, this guy comes in and he starts screaming at the council. He's got a baggie, okay,
Yeah.
filled with female accoutrements
Right. Yeah. Mice.
and turds.
We call them mice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And he's
Sanitary
screaming
mice.
about how this is backing up through a sewer
Yeah.
and it's, whatever. And so the council calls, they knew that I was managing that place, and they call me up and I said, "I'm sorry to inform you, sir, but that's your wife's and your own poop."
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when it rains,
Yeah.
if you have like blockage in your like if you have roots growing in your
Sure.
in your sewer,
Yeah.
generally your own water pushes your own shit through your basement.
That's
like
correct.
your rainwater pushes your own shit backwards through your pipe into your basement, and all that stuff is held back by your own roots.
Yeah.
So that guy just totally lost his
Tell your wife to put her tampons in the garbage.
right.
Yeah.
Or
And
give
they,
to the raccoons.
Yeah, they like it. They need some iron.
they get some iron in their diet that way.
I pulled, one time one of our machines blocked up, and my guys wouldn't fix it, so I had to do it myself. I pulled out a ball of tampons this big.
He's making the size of like a beach ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but the best part was
This is
when I
nice
pulled it
drawing.
out. I pulled it out. I said I found the mayor's tampon because she was nasty.
We went through that experience at our house.
This is
too.
many
She
years
was
ago.
a very large.
This is not. There's nobody that I know right now.
Nobody we know right now. Don't worry about it.
I was
Yep.
there with Sam, the plumber, when he was going. Our basement flooded the one time, and it really hadn't. We've had all waterproofing. Our whole wall, our basement has never given us a problem, and all of a sudden it did. And at first I didn't quite get it because it was like only when our sump pump ran, it started coming up through us. And I thought originally we had 2 separate systems. Well, I learned that in a city close to us that you won't be named. It doesn't matter. It all goes down the same pipe and everything like that. But yeah, what he pulled out, at first I thought he was pulling out like somebody had flushed a rag down it or something.
Right.
Well, like literally a rag. And then I realized, oh no. He's like, yeah, that's what you think it is. I'm
That's
like, oh.
exactly right.
And then, like, it was just like, I'm like, that's not even just 1 month. That's had to been like building up for a while.
Years.
Ooh. Frightening.
That'll make a happy guy grumpy.
They must somehow they must like get snagged up and once one hangs up, another one hits it and clings onto it, and they just build up or something. I don't know.
They like each other.
Okay, anything about motorcycles?
So I will say that this morning I kind of had made a decision that hell or high water, literally, I was going to ride this morning. And when I decided to come into work, we had this like respite. So it had rained a bit, it had backed off. I was like, perfect time. So today I'm going to call today my day of 650s because fucking today every bike I rode I think was a 650. And I rode a lot of 650s today. So I rode into work on a Versys 650, a 2015 Versys 650. I still am going to say the motherfucking bike is a great motorcycle. It's amazing. It doesn't take up any extra room in the garage because it's narrow. It's, you know, it's not bigger than it needs to be.
Right.
The one I rode in today has no bags on it. It's just naked the way it came from the factory. And got on the bike, fired it up. It has been sitting in my garage. I keep everything on a battery tender, of course. Go out. It's like eighth bike from the door kind of thing in my garage. I'm like, I'm going to take that into work this morning. I'm like, that's what I want to ride. And also, if it starts fucking pouring on me, it's got a good windshield on it from the factory. And so I dressed pretty much like, if it rains on me, I'm not going to be totally miserable, but I'm going to be okay.
Right.
Full face helmet, a jacket that I know is mostly waterproof, and overpants that I know are mostly waterproof. Left my house. I forgot about the Versys magic thing that it does. It loves the fucking wheelie. Like nobody would, if you told somebody, well, I got to warn you about the Versys. It has one tendency that it tends to do, a 650 Versys. It does happy wheelies. So it does these cool wheelies that occur at about 6,000 RPM. So like when you pull out of your driveway, you make the right onto the main road and you give it. Well, when you give it, when it gets to about 6K, the front end just gets real light and starts coming up on you. And you're like, oh, I forgot. You may be a 650, but you're a very happy 650. So the front end came up and I was like, oh, this is fun. This just became super enjoyable. My ride to work just got so much better. And then pull the clutch in, grab second gear, and the front wheel just comes right back up again. I was like, this is what I remember. That's what Versys do so well. They really do. They're just like a power plant. That parallel twin just loves to give you rev. And it loves to give you that kind of like, if you short shift it, it's going to be a boring 650. You're going to feel like it's a 650. But if you let it wander into its upper revs, it's really going to start giving you real nice wheel lifting torque. So that was fun. So I was riding it, into work and decided, just having so much fun, I was going to take the long way and, wander into the metro parks and all that. Fucked me over. So I didn't, I live west of here. So the weather hits us first. Yep. And then we know that we've got, a 20-minute delay or something until it gets here to the shop.
You could run away from it.
You can. I totally run away from it a lot. Yeah. And you're right. You can see it coming over the lake and you can be like, that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so, but I got in the metro parks where the trees are all around me and I lose my sight of the sky. So I can't see the sky anymore. I'm just in the trees. Well, then I got shit hammered. So, I got just drenched.
Are your underwear still wet?
My shoes are in my office. my first pair of shoes, because I always keep extras here at the shop. But the rain pants, they're not really rain pants. They're adventure pants. And fuck that, by the way. Adventure pants should be waterproof. Okay? None of this shit where it's like, it's waterproof on the outsides, but then in the expansion panels in the middle, it's not waterproof. That's fucking stupid.
That's the place that I don't want to get wet. I could handle my legs, my arms, and everything. Yeah. My core, and when it starts like soaking your underwear,
exactly,
like that sucks.
Yeah, I was wearing tan colored BDUs. Anybody who's been there, Desert Storm BDUs are called chocolate chips, and I was wearing my Desert Storm BDUs. And I had a wet crotch that was just like dark, looked like woodland camouflage. And then the rest of me was totally dry. So it was technically perfect at keeping me wet keeping me dry except for my balls. Shoes totally full of water. Both shoes completely inundated with water.
When you have like a pint of water. In your
I walked into the shop. When I walked into the shop, I just left footprints the whole way from squish, 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 squish all the way back. Jacket did a pretty damn good job. Obviously, helmet and everything else. But yeah, by the time I got in here to the shop, I was fucking wet cat. And then, 2 hours here at the shop and the weather broke and the sun came out. Yep. And I was like, okay, we need to take pictures for the website. So I had to take the V-Star 650 out, which is all bobbered out, Dime City cycled out with an inch of the life. The handlebars on that bike are this wide. And this is where I'm going to tell you that a V-Star 650 with the handlebars this wide is a very strange riding position.
Yeah.
I felt like I was going to be engaged in an unnatural sex act at any moment because my feet were forward on the factory floorboards, but my hands were in these like stockades. Like I felt like I was in a stocks. And then at any moment, some like townsfolk could come and like do what they will because I'm a criminal.
Maybe that's why Cam doesn't come here anymore.
But with that much leverage, does it make
there's
it
no leverage, Steve, because you're winged out here.
Oh,
so like you're winged out here, so you're like, okay, I've got leverage. No, I don't. If every time I want to turn lock to lock, I had to like sneak a cheek off the seat.
Well, think about doing a push-up. Where would you want to do a push-up?
Right, not out here.
Too close is too bad.
Right.
And all the way out is too bad. There's a certain sweet spot.
Yeah,
These bars are at least 3 feet wide, maybe 4 feet wide. Yeah. You can't get them through the front door of the shop. I tried. No. It is impossible.
They're Beachcombers Plus.
But they are just straight as an arrow. It's just a fucking broom handle.
Really?
Oh, it's terrible. I'll let you play with it later.
And that's apparently this is a thing that's going on. So I see all these kids
as we speak.
I see all these kids running around on bicycles now that look like choppers, like they're back into this again.
Okay.
But they all have ape hangers.
Oh.
And so they're riding these bikes, and their feet, the things that you're pedaling, the pedals are way out front. The bars are up here, so they're like
Things that you pedal.
they're going.
I mean, that's pretty much a recombinant bike with ape hangers.
Yeah.
It really is, right? I mean,
But it's so weird that it looks so uncomfortable and so miserable, but they're all cool.
Yo, man.
It's not
Yo,
it's not, this is form over function.
it is a terrible example of form over function. And riding the bike, so the bike parts of it, I was all like, you know what? This is a good bike. Like the motor works good. It's shaft drive. It's got low miles. It's an 08 and it's in very, very nicely maintained condition. And I'm like, this isn't a bad bike at all. There's nothing about this motherfucker that I hate. However, it's that stupid fucking handlebars.
Yep.
And it's like, and so for the first time ever, I'm driving down the road and I would cruise at like 50 miles an hour and I would just blindly let go of the bars and put your hands where you want them to be.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So I let go of the bars and I put them where I wanted to be. And every single time I let go of the bars and put them where I wanted to be, I put them right here. And I was like, oh. So it's like a 6-inch or 8-inch rise. So a 6-inch or 8-inch rise, and I'm going to measure the hoses and the cables to see if I can attain that.
I mean, a pipe cutter works pretty well.
Yeah, it does, right? Yeah.
It's just like your GS 1000 you have up there, right?
Right.
When you had it on the floor, I sat on it. I'm like, this is the most uncomfortable fucking bike I've ever sat on.
It is the most.
But now I have the two 850s, which are basically that bike with a smaller motor. But
Sure,
I have the I have the bars that came with it.
Yep.
And it's completely opposite. It's the most comfortable bike.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So literally is just the bars. Like those bars do not belong on that bike.
And those bars are terrible.
I think one of our favorite bars is the Superbike bar.
Yeah, Superbike bars are always nice.
Superbike bar, and it's probably similar to what you have, but maybe a little bit lower rise.
Yeah,
so
it just comes back.
It comes out. It has maybe an inch or two, but not a whole lot of
real
rise.
high,
But then they just come out, and they're just
Nice.
they're the Superbike bar.
And what you could imagine, the 80s Superbikes. So the bikes from the 80s that were Superbikes, they didn't have buckhorns on. They didn't have cruiser handlebars on. They had straight up, they weren't a broom handle by any standard.
Right.
They were just a few inches above the top triple clamp.
Right.
Easy for me to say. And
I like a set of dirt bike bars.
yeah.
It's
It's
interesting.
got a good rise.
It's
got the
interesting you
white-
should mention that because I just bought a set of Moose bars because your favorite bike, the FT500. If I hadn't told you, you wouldn't have noticed that it had a bent bar. So now I got to fix it. So I just bought a set of
And
dirt
now I
bike
gotta
bars for
fix
that
it.
bike, and I thought it'd be good because it's a derivative of the XL500.
excellent.
I think that would be very comfortable.
The only problem I'm going to have is I think they're really a little bit too low, and I don't think there's actually the fuse box and everything. So I think the crossbar is going to make it tough, but we'll see.
That's a good, that is interesting because of the crossbar on there. Yeah, you're right. That's going to be a little bit weird.
These I should have gotten one that had a little more rise. These are a little too flat. And I don't know if I'm actually going to end up putting them on, but I do think that bike would be nice with a little bit of a dirt bike bar on it.
Well, I have a tech tip for Chris Smith is Monkey.
Oh, really?
So we were talking about machining a piece for a preload
Okay.
for the rear springs. Well, today I was just looking at it, and they're not adjustable. It looks like they should be adjustable, but they're not adjustable.
It has the little thing there, but it just doesn't have a bunch
has
of other
most of the things you would want.
So what I did was I was fooling around with it, and because I was going to machine that piece today, I pulled it up and that piece is loose and it spins.
What?
So you could pull that piece up, rotate it 90 degrees, and it gives you 3/8 to a half-inch preload.
So just by not putting it in the groove.
Yeah, you take it out of the groove, you just pull it up, twist it 90 degrees. It's not in the groove. It gives you, like I said, 3/8 to a half-inch preload.
That's a hell of a tech tip.
That's exactly what I told you when you had it here. Just pull it up and rotate it and don't let it sit in the groove, and it'll give you that much more preload.
Yeah, because you're ignoring the groove.
Jesus Christ. Listen to me next time.
I will.
You know what? But he got there on his own.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, that's more important.
Right. And honestly, you weren't going to do it for him anyway. So.
Oh, hell no.
There was no chance that you were going to be like, you know what? Hold on. I can totally get this for you.
That's like you posted you were working on your bike, and Cam was like, I want that bike. And he was like, good, then come fucking work on it.
Wait, no. He said, you're working on my bike.
Oh,
like,
then you come and work on it. Yeah, right. Fuck you. Come and work on this thing. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that really is... When you think about something like preload, preload is literally just making the spring squeezier. All you literally have to do is like put a spacer in there.
Right.
You know,
I have find a bunch of big washers and
yes,
put it under the
big
spring.
washers. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah, baby. That's all it is. And that's like, when I think back, it's like, okay, what have I done in my life? Yes, I have cut things. Like I have had giant washers and cut one slot out of them so I could slide them on and create preload.
Right.
You know, and they're just shims is all they are. But you know, you do what you got to do when you got a bike who's bottoming out the tire on the inside of the rear fender.
You know what I hate almost as much as that is the top side, like front end rattle where like the KLR, I had a CB750 where you go over a hump and when you totally unload
when you unload it,
you can like the springs.
The springs dancing.
They dance. It's almost like I want to put a spacer in them just so that they are never unloaded like that because it makes a little rattle. Like
the picture of the bike behind us. This is the bike in question, and you'll notice that like it almost looks like a 3-dimensional picture with that left grip is jumping off the screen. Yeah, because it's ridiculous. Those handlebars are stupid.
And you can tell he didn't change the brake lines or anything. They're just
they're all there.
So you can
they're all there. So I'm hoping to be able to put something with a little bit of a rise on
Instead of going 3 inches up and out, it goes straight out.
It goes straight
you
out.
have that 3 inches.
Yeah.
You know?
My pet peeve is no front fender.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Why do they
take the front fender? What do they want to get a black line down the middle of the
I was
face?
riding the bike today, and like that picture was taken today. So as you can see, there were moments of our day where it was bright and sunny, despite the water stain in the parking lot. But yeah, riding around the neighborhood, occasionally I was getting water on my face, and I was realizing like that was the point where my front tire went into anything that was even slightly moist.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't like a puddle. No, because a puddle you'd be soaked. But that is literally from just a tiny bit of moisture. So it's a very, very that particular bike, that V-Star 650, is a great motorcycle. Usually a great entry-level motorcycle for people who want a cruiser. Is very good choice. It runs great. No big deal. Heel-toe shifter, all the things that make it a cruiser, except for these fucking... And it does look, aesthetically, it looks pleasing. It's horrible to ride. Yeah, it is awful to ride.
I don't think the current handlebars
Just take a little bit off those bars and
anything.
you'll be fine.
That's what I was riding it, and I was like, if I just took 3 inches off at each end of this bar, it would be totally drivable, and it would still have that like bar-to-bar, like bar hopper look. But then part of me was also going, maybe this is the one that becomes like the mini apes. Maybe this is the bike that wants mini apes. So we'll see what happens.
Is there a handlebar called
I
the
say
bar-to-bar
that's the
bar?
next
The bar-to-bar bar?
I say that's the next owner's problem.
That is, well, but nobody will sit on. Every time somebody sits on this bike in my showroom,
Right.
they all say the same thing.
Nope.
What the hell? Like their arms are at maximum reach already, and I'm a fucking.
Wait, literally, Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ. Can you reach the grips? No, but we'll just nail you right on. You'll be fine. They call it the Stigmata Special. You're going to love this. It's going to be great. And you know what? If you crash 3 days later, you'll be back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
On the fender tip, I had a that DR250 for a while, and somebody had put a cool Super Moto fender on it.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
it looked like a dirt bike fender, but it was much shorter and everything like that. Well, you'd be riding it on the highway, and I rode it in the rain a couple times, and it would be like, oh, whoops, it misses. It's just not enough to make like
the rain doesn't
the
go
right
down.
fender.
Right.
The rain would go forward and go down to the ground, but the shorter fender let the rain go straight up and go right back on you. It was just motherfucker.
Did anybody tell you the bandana trick?
No, I do not know the Bandana
Okay, so you
Trick.
should know the Bandana Trick. And if you're going to ride choppers, or if you're going to ride bobbers, if you're going to ride anything that doesn't have a front fender, you must have a bandana or a spare t-shirt. Because what the trick is you can take your bandana and you can tie your bandana between the forks, just above the tire. And if you tie your bandana just above the forks on the tire, what happens is probably 80 or 90% of the water that's flinging off of that tire will hit the bandana and fall back down. And you're
back
still
around.
look, you're still going to have a whole lot of fucking water shooting off the front wheel, but you're not going to have the rooster tail going straight up that you drive through at 60 miles an hour.
It was awful.
Yeah, so the bandana trick does actually
And
work.
honestly, I blame that on the wreck that I had at Mid-Ohio. That's really what caused that. That's what happened. The dew on the grass was sending a rooster tail. I got a
you
little
couldn't
thumb
see
in my eyes.
Yeah, and that's what happens. You just can't see shit.
There's that version, or I could make up the version where it was actually Sydney's fault.
It was
but,
Cindy's fault.
I'm not going to go there today.
You can't ever
went
blame the
there
girl.
a
You
couple
can't blame
weeks
the girl
ago.
on the back of the motorcycle ever. That is completely unacceptable. The interesting thing was the third 650 I rode today was a BMW 650. So it was a BMW F650G, or what some people call a GS650G, which is a Rotax-inspired 650.
Is it
OG.
the two exhaust or one exhaust?
It's the fake two exhaust.
Yeah, because it's
So when you're in the back, you are looking at two cans.
right.
But one of the cans is a simulated can.
Oh,
Yeah.
Why?
Exactly. Thank you.
so wait, is
Why?
it hooked into the system or
No.
no?
No.
They should have put a toolkit in
It's
it.
a dud.
Should've put a
toolkit.
It's a dud.
It's a dud. It's exactly what it is.
Seriously?
Thank you. It's a dud.
I had no idea.
That
It is
doesn't
an
sound very German to me.
absolute dud. And we'll go look at one in close. We'll look at one up close so you can see how it is. But the exhaust on this bike, it gives the visual impression that it has two mufflers, and one of them is a muffler, and the other one is a not muffler. So
I'm going to say that one's the muffler,
So it turns out the one
and that one's
believe
the snuffler.
I believe on the right is the actual muffler because the pipe crosses over under your butt.
But the other one's discolored.
Again, we'll investigate that earlier. But yeah, so it is totally it's not great, and it's just an unnecessary expense in the interest of symmetry, and it is riding that bike.
Let's just put more weight on the bike that's absolutely unnecessary.
Exactly right.
Why would you do that?
But Dietrich, the back end is not uniform.
It's not symmetrical.
A lot of people
Right,
talk about
exactly, right.
replacing the exhaust not for the horsepower, but just to lose the weight.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, and it's just one of those things that it has that look that you're like, okay, I get it. We're going to give the impression this is like a big off-road adventure twin, but it's fucking not, man. It is when you get on that motorcycle and you cane it. Because, I mean, like, I had the F700 GS and I've had, the other GSs. And what I can tell you is that this particular bike, the biggest selling point about this is they have a really, really low seat height for an adventure bike.
Yeah.
Despite having like a 19-inch wheel in the front and an 18-inch wheel in the back, the seat height is rather low.
And they even sell lowering links that make it like 30 inches high or some ridiculous thing or something.
Exactly. So I have brought up an image for you guys because I know you'll love images. This is a picture of the exhaust off the bike. So the exhaust, when it's not on the bike, wait for it, does in fact have a dud. So yes, so there you have it. There is a real functional muffler and an entire other can that does nothing.
Wow.
So
But how does it look like it's all discolored and everything? That's just because.
that's just because.
So it has no pipe going into it at all.
At all. Nothing. It does
Why would
nada.
they not make that a toolkit? And why doesn't somebody make a toolkit?
I think they do, actually. I think
Okay.
there is a company that does a substitute toolkit for that particular offensive exhaust.
That's disgusting.
It is disgusting. Yeah, it is disgusting. No, I mean,
How shitty it
It's the
looks.
Germans.
it's the Germans, exactly. So yeah, it's this
Like
ridiculous.
German horn.
Yeah.
What's that pipe?
It's got a pipe going
Yeah, I
into
think
it.
it's literally just a
Yeah, like I said, like German porn. It's got a pipe going into it.
It's got a pipe in the can.
Yeah, it is completely 100%. Oh, so here you go, Steve. I know that you want to see this picture. I'm going to pull it up for you because this is going to make you very happy.
no.
As soon as you see this picture, you're going to be like, yeah, this makes perfect sense. So in the middle of the screen coming up right about now, you'll see a gentleman's hand pulling a fake can. He's pulling, literally, he's turned the fake can into a toolkit.
Nice.
Right. So that's what it is. If we look on the left, we'll tell you how this works. So the left chamber, so the right chamber is the one where the gases come out. The left chamber is basically a resonance chamber.
Okay, so it does have something going.
No, it's not doing anything, Steve. It's bullshit.
But exhaust gases do get to it.
They move through there,
Right.
but it doesn't enhance the situation.
But
That's
how
all an exhaust is gases
Yeah,
move through
but
it.
that's how. I mean, that's why it's discolored, though. It's not just
Right.
randomly discolored. Like,
Right. Yeah. But it's not, in my opinion, as a person that understands the way combustion works.
Yeah. it's
Okay,
not.
Steve. Is that if you were going to engineer this exhaust, is
Right.
this the way you would have engineered it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But
look at
you
the
are
monkey
correct.
exhaust.
So technically, you're both correct.
Right. And no aftermarket company that has approached this particular situation has chosen to mimic or duplicate the OEM design
That's a good picture right there.
in any way. Right? So when you look at like the idea of what we do with exhausts when they leave the exhaust valve and how we can do exhaust management for different things, I think that having this entire left pipe on there was mostly form first, and then they were like, well,
I'm going to call that a BMW appendix.
yes, it is an appendix. Yes,
It's there.
exactly.
It sort of has some
Yeah,
need, but you could totally do without it.
Right. It could. Some people. I'm sure there is an engineer somewhere that will justify why this needs to exist.
Yeah.
And then there's everybody else that makes exhausts for a living, who has a dynamometer that says,
And a scale.
That's like those
And a
little
scale, exactly.
That's like those little two-stroke chambers that you had for
Yes, a great example.
weed whacker
There
or
were
whatever.
two-stroke expansion chambers on a leaf blower-sized motor that had literally a dead man on them. So they had a place.
So it went out big, and it
Yep.
came down to small, and then
Right.
it went to a point and didn't
Right.
come out
It
anywhere.
didn't come out of the point.
There was a little tube coming
Yeah.
out this way, so it was a whole chamber.
Yep.
But there no stinger on
No,
the end
no
of it.
stinger.
The stinger came out the side somewhere.
Right. The stinger came out of the
Which
middle.
I suppose probably still worked because
Yeah.
you're talking about resonance and
Yeah,
everything like that. But
Frequency.
to look at one and hold it in your hand, it was the weirdest thing ever.
Well, that, and we saw
don't like
many
is-
of the Chinese bikes that were a 4-stroke bike, but they clearly had a 2-stroke expansion chamber on them with an out and back and a turned 180-degree stinger and a silencer on it. And I was like, is that a 2-stroke? And the Chinese guy in the booth is like, it's a 4-stroke. And I was like, then why did you put a 2-stroke pipe on it? And they're like, and I was like, oh, because it looks cooler. And I'm like, but yeah, making exhaust gases go an extra, like it's having 15 extra complications in your watch. It's not necessarily going to tell you what time it is any better.
Plus heat under
But
your
there
seat.
is such a thing as a 4-stroke expansion chamber. Isn't that what they call like the power bomb? or
Power bomb.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Where they
power
actually
bomb.
give you
Much
a
smaller.
little
Right.
smaller chamber
Yeah.
just so the exhaust gases can expand and
That's exactly right.
fuck ever they want.
Yeah. But it's such a great idea that every single aftermarket exhaust for a BMW F650 GS doesn't have it. Right. So all these companies that know a thing or two about exhaust management have decided they're not going to go there.
So is there a clean out or something in there?
No, I don't know what the fuck's going on. But you mean that little 90-degree angle on there?
No, look at the
That's
one
just the hanger.
next to inside the cutout for that would be the exhaust.
Okay.
That one that's a modification. I think he's looking at that one right there with the semi-moon shaped thing and a keyhole.
Okay.
That is a modification. So over here, right there.
That right there.
one. Is
The
that what
car
you're looking at?
modifications?
Yeah, that's a modification. I think that's one that opens up and is a toolkit or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And
You can put your diamonds in there.
in any case, but what I can tell you is from
like
the factory,
emeralds.
the sound of the motorcycle is not enjoyable. The power and thrust of the motorcycle made me want to get back on the Versys instantly.
ASAP.
And you know what's weird is
Yeah.
like when you look, and I don't know what year you were looking at, but I've messed with a few of them.
Yeah.
And they have that Chinese scooter speedometer look to
They
it.
do.
Like it's that
Yeah.
weird, like
Yeah,
just
they do.
shitty Chinese scooter looking
It's
thing.
not, it's just one of those things that I think that in the interest of having those matching left and right mufflers, and having the left one, which the left one has an exhaust tip in it, but yet no exhaust will ever come out of there.
This bike is like the dude that had cancer, but he wanted the ball put back in.
So he's a nudicle. Yeah. All of my dog breeder friends will know exactly what I'm talking about. So he's got a nudicle where there should be nothing. And you're right. Yeah, get rid of the weight, chuck the weight, make the muffler come out on the left side, not take an extra trip over to the right side, because there's no benefit to all the extra plumbing other than weight. And then on the right side, if you want to have something there, put in a 4-inch PVC tube and paint it silver if it makes you feel happy, and put a screw top on it. Now you got a place for a really bitchin' toolkit.
So you could put additional fuel.
Oh, yeah, because it'd be away from heat and away from all the other things, and it would weigh less than that stupid exhaust.
Top shelf fridge.
And they sell those like 1 liter little cans that probably actually fit inside.
It'd probably fit in there quite handily. So, but in any case, that's my review of the BM. I mean, and nothing wrong with the bike. The bike's a fine bike for being a BMW F650 GS. You know,
it's like my first BMW. It's pretty much my Fisher Price, my first BMW.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think you're right. There's a lot of entry level BMW happening there, and I rode it around and. It does have a wheelie fun killer on it, so it does have ABS, but when I tried to do just power wheelies in first and second gear, as soon as the front wheel comes off the ground, some sort of nanny state's getting involved, and it's not letting me do fun wheelies with that bike at all. So yeah, I did. I looped it back around. I took the pictures of it. I got back on the Versus and took a victory lap in the neighborhood before the rain came.
Nice.
And I was like, Versus wins. Yeah, Versus is dominant.
So Phil, I thought I knew.
Oh,
good one. You made
wow,
up for
good
your
job,
lack
John.
That was pretty amazing.
That was
been a while.
effervescent out. Yeah.
So I thought I knew quite a bit about two-stroke Vespas. Not as much as you guys, obviously, but I've known quite a bit.
Yep.
And then I walk in, and then you have this little shiny guy over here.
Yep.
And that's a 2005
It's 2005. Yep.
two-stroke
Correct.
PX what?
It's a PX 150.
150,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's a PX 150, and they're
I didn't know they still made them at that.
well. It's an interesting thing, and I'm glad you asked.
All right.
So, what had happened about the PX 150 is that bike was not offered in the United States. When Vespa came back to the market in the United States in 1999 and 2000, they came back to the market with a horrible bike called the ET4. And it's automatic transmission. It's a stamped steel frame. Everything's normal. But the ET4 was a Vespa whose design parameters, it was the first automatic transmission, mass-produced automatic transmission Vespa. Now, there were plenty of small frame Vespas and large frame Vespas that had hinky-ass weirdo automatics built into them. Go ahead, John.
What about the ET2?
Well, the ET2 and the ET4 are the same frame. The difference being that one of them is a 4-stroke 150, the ET4, hence the 4. It's a 4-stroke. The ET2 is a 2-stroke 50, hence the 2. The ET3, to make it more confusing, is a 2-stroke 125 small frame. So it's a legacy of the 60s and 70s Vespa small frames.
Wasn't one of the ETs actually kind of desirable?
The ET3, because it came with a Vespa Ducati P200 style electronic ignition and a 125cc 2-stroke motor in a bike that weighed slightly less than angel's fart. Like, it was an amazing little bike, and people who like small frames are already weird fucking people. But if you like a small frame, either you're a big fella or a little fella and you like a small frame with a factory 3-port 2-stroke 125cc motor with an electronic ignition is a really tidy bit of kit to have around.
I would argue that most people at this table, and most people who ride bikes would really enjoy a small frame with the 133 big bore kit on it.
Yeah, they're great. Melosi kits, the 135,
fun to ride. I mean, a little scooter and everything, but it's just like,
and there's so much tuning that you can do with the Vespa ET3. So I'm just going to go for very, very quick. The gentleman or gentle persons what designed the Vespa ET4 are guilty of a hate crime. The hate crime in question is the excessive consumption of ovals. The The
You have to
bike.
take the exhaust off to change the oil.
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh, you had to
ridiculous.
drop the exhaust to do an oil change. First things first. That's the way to keep the dealers happy. By the
You
way.
got an ET4?
This is the classic Barbie scooter, right?
This is the Vespa. You'll notice that on the front wheel, instead of having mag wheels with slots or whatever, those are all ovals. You'll notice that the turn signals are in the shape of ovals. You'll notice that the headlight is in the shape of ovals, and that the mirrors are in the shape of ovals.
And the cheeks too. Kind of.
Everything, and if we turn and look at the back of the bike is a series of ovals as well. So the tail light, the rear tail light, is an oval.
It's perpetually ovulating.
It's just ovulating all the time. So
that's
everything
terrible.
on the bike is an oval.
So ovaled.
Right, it's just all ovaled. And the headlight is particularly offensive. And it's
Dude.
just,
It looks like the
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds,
Yeah.
exactly. So now, to me, in my history of Vespa scooters, it's just always been, I've never liked this bike because it just had no real tribute to previous Vespas, right? It just didn't have anything to show the other bikes. And this is a 4-stroke 150. Now, mechanically speaking, they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. It's a typical Vespa product. It's pretty well thought out, And
there are no more ETs, or are they still making ATs?
no, ETs are gone.
They went the way of
They're all gone. Yep. So now this
ET
is an
would be an
ET3.
LX.
So this is an ET3. This is available at the exact same time frame. So the exact same time you could have bought this, which is a 2-stroke, right? And so this ET3 with electronic ignition and all the other things, this is a proper 60s and 70s small frame. It is more primitive. It has shifters. It shifts, it's a 4-speed transmission. It has a mechanical clutch. It is a more primitive machine, you bet your ass. But today, for today's market, if somebody said you can have an ET4 or you can have an ET3, I'm taking the ET3 every single fucking day.
Steve, do you like that silver and blue one? I know you have a similar color scheme picked out for your new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. So they're very cool. And they have the word electronic on the side. That's kind of part and parcel
So
of
that means it has
C1.
electronic start.
That means
right?
it has electronic ignition. It does not have an electric starter. It just has an electronic ignition, which means no points. So that's what those are. And then on the left-hand side, you had a little glove box. And on the right-hand side, you had an access port to get to your spark plug and whatnot.
The more I look at these, over the years, Suzuki definitely borrowed a lot of the styling for their graphics.
Oh, from the Vespas, from the Italians. Yeah, exactly. And so, long and short of it was this ET4 model came in. Now, we really never did get the ET3s in America. We were promised them in the 90s. Vespa higher-ups came out to events in America and were kind of feeling out the market. They promised us an ET2, an ET3, and an ET4. What they delivered was the ET2 and the ET4. That was it in the early days, 99, 2000. So in 2002... Genuine Scooter Company brought us the Stella, right? Yep. So the Genuine Scooter Company brings out the Stella, which is an LML Vespa. It's a Vespa made in India under license by LML. And the Stella was, of course, basically a Vespa PX 150, right? Made in India. And the Stella is an actual shifting scooter. So it shifts gears as, old scooters did. And everything about it is what you'd expect. It's a 2-stroke. It's a 4-speed. It's got a clutch. And they were competing. So there's some bit of a background there.
Honestly, when I walked in, I thought somebody had rebadged a
Stella, which is hilarious now that the worm is turned the other way. The cart is being pushed, by the horse. Or the cart is pushing the horse at this point. So in 2002 and 2003, the Stella comes out, and it's a 2-stroke scooter with all the Vespa attributes, but it's being made in India by LML. And it turns out that it starts fucking with Vespa a little bit. Like, they're selling a lot of them. And they're really cheap. They're $26.99 or so. And prior to that, the Bajaj was a 4-stroke 150. We have one of those here too, and really
I know you
perfect
personally
shape.
put hundreds of them out in the world.
We did. We put hundreds of them out in the world for sure. And the Bajaj came out, and it was $2,000. It was $19.99, and actually it came out a little cheaper than that when it first launched. It was about $16.99, $17.99, and then they raised the price.
It was a Chinese scooter before Chinese scooters.
Well, it was an Indian scooter, and
but was better.
Oh yeah, and it was a bike that people could ride and
now they're like $3,000 used.
Yeah,
like you can't even find them.
You can't get them, right? And so the Bajaj came out, and the Bajaj sort of like showed genuine that they could sell an Indian product in America, and people would buy it because they wanted a real Vespa.
Right.
They wanted a real. They saw the ET4 and they didn't like it.
Right.
They wanted a real Vespa. So if you wanted a real Vespa, you had to buy a Bajaj or a genuine.
Or apparently a Vespa.
Well,
And even the Bajaj was a 4-stroker.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Because Stella and Bajaj did a very good job of selling those bikes in 2002 and 2003 and 2004. And Vespa went, "You're fucking me with my own dick." Hold on a second. You guys are making replicas of my bike
Right.
and selling them in America, and everybody's saying how fucking great they are. That's my shit. I own that. That's my game. That's my jam, man. I invented that shit. I've been doing that since 1977. It's called the P Series, bitch.
Did the Stella, are those actually Vespa molds though? I mean, or did
So what happened is the tooling, of course,
Yeah.
was under contract. So Piaggio always had a deal going with Indian companies. Bajaj got old Vespa tooling. LML got old Vespa tooling. They were built with license so they could be sold in India, a giant scooter market, without paying a massive tariff from bringing something in from Italy. If you're in India and you have to pay a massive tariff to get this $4,000 Italian piece of awesomeness into India, nobody can afford the fucker.
Right.
But if you send the tooling over to India and, all the Indian folks can knock them out as fast as they can, who cares if the left door of the factory distributes for Indian consumption and the right door of the factory is going back to Italy to be built into Italian Vespas, right?
But isn't there the genuines and stuff, their cranks seem to be a lot softer than...
Well, we're going to go into that a little bit too, and that's about use. That's about using the vehicle.
And my question is, where was that one built?
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked. So in 2005, Piaggio USA says that's enough. We're going to pay whatever it costs to the EPA. We're going to pay whatever it costs to the homologation, and we're going to bring our product in from Italy, and we're going to fuck you, Stella, Genuine Scooter Company, Phil McCaleb, and fuck you, Bajaj, Al Colvitis, and Bajaj USA. We're going to take our market back. I don't want to see any more genuine scooters, Stellas, getting Piaggio badges put on them.
Yeah.
Just because they all fit. And they all slot perfectly into the holes. And I don't want to see any more Bajajes having the front ends altered and having the back ends altered so they don't look like Bajajes anymore. They look like PXs.
Yeah.
I don't want any more of that. I'm going to come in and I'm going to bring in these goddamn authentic Italian motherfucking Vespas.
That look exactly like a Stella. I mean, I get the fact that they're the same thing, but I mean, it's not like you don't look at that and you're like, wow, the quality of this is so much better than a Stella.
There's a little bit of that.
Now hold on.
If you look really close at that bike and you sit on that bike and you look at the instruments and some of the stuff.
The instruments are way nicer.
That is actually, there are definite facets of that bike that make it a little bit more quality, I feel, than a Stella. I feel.
I think you're
I
right.
may be proven wrong, but
I think you're right, but if you were just casually looking at them next to each other and you were going to buy one, you would.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you had a Stella with all the badges and everything and they were sitting side by side, the casual observer would not know the
they
difference.
just go by the color. But you're right. The seat material looks better. The headlight, the bezel on the headlight, the instruments, all that stuff is nicer.
But I'm sure Phil can tell us a lot more about it.
Yes. I'm glad you asked. So, as it turns out, when Piaggio decided to bring these in, right? So Piaggio decided to bring these in. Keep in mind at that particular moment in 2005, Stellas were being sold for the princely sum of $23.99 or $26.99. Yeah. So just call it $26.99.
Right.
Those Vespas rolled in at $42.99.
Ooh. Yeah.
That's
going to take somebody that's looking for a special Vespa to pay an extra $2,000 to have the same bike.
Exactly. Now, what about the differences? $26.99 for the Stella, $42.99 for the Vespa.
What I get for almost $2,000 more.
Right. It turns out what you get is the Stella had a 5-port motor.
Right.
The Vespa didn't. The Vespa had a 3-port motor. The Stella had bitubo shocks. Now, they were India patterned by Tubo shocks, but they were remote reservoir, stiffer shocks. Turns out they didn't stand the test of time. Right. The Stella had many more welds in the frame because the frame was built for the Indian market. Roads are rougher. Minimum occupancy 7 people. Right? It's right. I mean, we've all seen the pictures. So there were more welds, and in fact, some people had measured it and said the steel was thicker in the Stellas. Okay. Wow. So some people had said the Stella was a more robust or a more rugged frame.
Heavier. Got it.
Heavier. Check. Yeah. Check. Got it. And there were several. And I'm trying to remember the name. I think it was a Utah scooter dealership that had done a really nice graphic where they had shown a Stella and a PX150, and they'd said all the differences, and it was clearly favoring Stella. Like it was like, wow. So it was really, the Stella was a better bike. Now, I can tell you one of the first things. You see the way the mirrors are on that bike? The mirrors come up out of the center of the headset, and the mirrors are put into these 2 metal stubs that go into the casting of the headset. Castings, as you know, are made of Velveeta.
Yeah, it's not a good
And
idea.
you should never tap a hard metal piece into a casting, especially not for something that vibrates as much as a mirror on a 2-stroke.
Yeah, they're not good with shear.
And they sheared like a motherfucker. And they would often break off inside. You try to tighten the mirror up and make it quit wiggling.
Is that why Stella put that little bracket?
Stella did it the old school way,
Like
the
you
old
would
Vespa way.
find on a P-Series.
Exactly. They put a bracket under the headset, so with 2 nice big bolts or 3 nice big bolts that went up into it and held onto that mirror, and therefore, if it fucking, God forbid, broke, you could just replace it very easily. These things had a tendency of blowing out the headsets like nobody's business. And then, well, what you got? You got 2 holes in the top of your headset, and you're buying the fucking brackets for underneath or stealing them off of Stella anyway.
Right.
So Stella was better in that regard.
To your point right there, if any manufacturers are listening to this right now, stop putting fucking mirror holders on parts that cost $200 or $300. So like, I lucked out. So like when Nick tested out, or he made sure my bike was roadworthy.
Oh, don't rub it in.
I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not dogging. Whatever, it's fine. But
When
what
he
I'm
gave it
saying
the
is,
horizontal test.
what I'm saying is that on the 82. It has the mirror thing is this little, it's the back of the master cylinder. It's just like a little, it's $11 part that goes and clamps into the master cylinder, and that's what broke. It was $11. But my 80, the mirror goes into the master cylinder. So if that broke, it's like $275.
The whole switch gear and everything.
Yeah, everything has to be changed. So like,
We can break that one next week.
no, but I'm saying, like, why would they do that? Knowing that mirrors get hung up, things happen to mirrors. Why would they put something that you could break?
But if that broke, couldn't you just buy the back to hold the master cylinder on with that other part? And then had broken part on the foot?
Well, you wouldn't have a mirror, though.
Maybe that's progress.
No, what I'm saying is, okay, so the back of the clamp that holds the master cylinder on in the back holds the mirror, right?
Right.
On the
On
middle.
the
Oh, so you're saying I can buy the 80 and put 82 and put it on the 80, and
Right.
And then you just still have a broken mirror mount.
Yeah,
but
right.
you have but then you just move your mirror back
if
to
it
the,
fits.
Obviously, but also it depends because the way that metal, when it broke, you can tell how shitty that metal is. It's like completely pop metal. Like somebody made that in their house, right?
If you're okay with your bike looking like crap.
Well, no, but on top of that, who knows if
I'm
you're
okay with it.
Well,
as long as it runs.
The only thing though is where that thing is though is if it broke off, I highly doubt your master cylinder would be able to hold pressure. I think it would have broken part of the master cylinder off
That's
too.
what JB welds for.
True that. So the other thing that was interesting about the Stella was the Stella had reed valve. And that's a big deal when you're talking about 2-strokes. So the difference between a reed valve and a difference in a rotary valve, and just to give you the layman's guide, is to make a 2-stroke work, you need to have a suck, right? So there has to be a suck, and the suck and the squeeze
And a blow.
happens at the same time as the bang and the blow. So like, or it happens, the suck and squeeze happens first, and the bang and blow happens in the second phase. So the suck and squeeze is when it grabs atmospheric air out of there and it mixes it with some gas and it sucks it into the bottom end of the motor.
As the piston's going up, it creates a vacuum.
Creates a vacuum.
In the bottom end.
And the more transfer ports you have, the more flow you can move from the top of the motor to the bottom of the motor.
When the piston comes down, it compresses the bottom end, and that has to get squeezed through the transfer ports up into the cylinder.
combustion area, right?
Yep.
Doesn't it seem that a 2-stroke, though, would be ideal for a turbocharger?
Yes, and we know people who have done that. So
No, I'm just saying
Yeah.
because then you'd always have positive pressure blowing through the crankcase.
Well, that's the idea between a two-stroke diesel, isn't it?
Exactly.
Well, everything would be better with a turbocharger on it. Let's just say that.
theoretically, yeah, I agree. It's cheap
Or a
power.
supercharger or whatever kind of
No, I'm
charger.
just saying it seems like
We'll talk about the new Suzuki in a minute. So the thing with the Stella was the Stella didn't use a rotary valve. A rotary valve literally just takes up as much charge as can fit into an area machined out of the crank. So the crank has these big lobes in the crank to give it some mass and give it some torque or give it some inertial mass
flywheel.
and rotational, right, flywheel effect. And that's in the crank. Well, if you scavenge cuts out of these crank and you scavenge these cuts out, when they go past an orifice, it will create a vacuum. Go ahead, John.
There's also a problem too that when the piston's coming down and it wants to compress the gas in the bottom end
Yep.
to squish it up into the top
It
end,
squirts it back out the
It also
carb.
wants to squirt it back out the carburetor. So with a rotary valve and on a Stella, it's
Right.
just the crank web moves past the port at the right time,
Yep.
and mostly, but certainly not entirely, seals that
Well,
gas.
that's in a rotary. So in a rotary valve,
That's a rotary.
rotary valve.
I said set. Yes,
Right.
on a Vespa or on an old P series.
they
or a
definitely
rotary valve.
spit. So if you're looking at a running rotary valve motor and you're watching an open carburetor and you're watching it run, you can see that there's shit going in, but there's a lot of times shit coming out.
Because for a split second, it's
Right.
it's spitting it.
it's spitting it back
You're
out.
getting a back pulse.
When you have a reed valve there, the reed valve is a one-way gate. And the reed valve literally sits there and goes, roaches check in, roaches don't check out. And so your wind and your gas goes in, but your wind and gas doesn't come back out again.
There was like they were sitting there one day and they're like, "There's got to be a better way." And the dude pulled out his clarinet and he's like,
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about.
The term is called packing your bottom end.
Right.
So you're stuffing more air fuel to get the
right.
air fuel velocity into your bottom end.
Right.
At top dead center, it sucks as much as it can, and there's a little bit of velocity that actually.
And I know you might think this is a motorcycle podcast, but we're going scooters here, and you're going to learn something whether
It's
you
the
like it or
same-
fucking not.
Well, no, but it's
Right.
the same difference as like a Yamaha RE.
It is.
An
An RD
RE5 versus an RD.
Exactly. The RD was a reed valve motor, and it's this exact same principle. An RE5 was a rotary valve motor, and it's the exact same reason. It's the reason the RDs are more desirable and faster. But here's the trick. Remember that in India, they didn't put the reed on there for power. They put the reed on there because that thing right there in 2005 got about 70 miles to the gallon. The Stella got about 100. And you want to know what was crazy? The Stella's faster. So it's faster. It's getting a better use of its burn.
I remember like James riding a Stella one
Yeah.
day. We had been selling him, and he just really hadn't ridden one. He took it for a ride, and he's a hardcore Lambretta guy. He always liked his Lambretta. He liked Lambrettas because
Tuned Lambrettas, yeah.
Lambrettas are fast, and Lambrettas are more sturdy and everything like that.
Yeah.
He took one ride on that 150. He came back. He's like, now I see why everybody loves these fucking things. They're fucking fast. I mean, like a Stella could do 60 mile an hour.
Out of the crate.
Oh, yeah.
Not even a problem.
Absolutely out of the crate. So Provo Scooter was the name of the shop. Provo Scooter in Utah did a head-to-head comparison, Stella versus PX150, and it pissed off a lot of people because it was just like, well, I hate to say it, but the Stella really is. It has more power. It has more features. It has more going for it. And yes, some of the touch points in the fit and finish wasn't as high quality as the Italians, but it didn't take long for somebody to figure out that the frames were rolling out of the same factory.
Does that have electric start?
It does.
Okay, so they both have electric start.
They both have electric start. And so that was a big deal. And then 2017, this experiment really only happened for 1 year, by the way. So the 2005 Vespa PX150 is it. There's no 2006 or 7 or 8 or 9. Piaggio got that shit out of their system fast. They brought that thing out. I went to Piaggio training in 2007. And we went to Piaggio Training Center. Ralph Soltal, God bless his soul, when all these Vespa dealers went out there and they're all like, okay, great. So you're going to train us on the LX150? Yes, we are. We're going to train you on the GTS 250? Yes, we are. You're going to train me on the Piaggio? Yes, we are. Can you train me on the PX150? And Ralph said, no. Anytime a PX150 comes into your shop, take it to the local Vespa guy, take it to the vintage guy. You don't want to fucking get involved with that. I can't teach you fucking people how to work on vintage bikes. Wow. It was a brand new bike, but it was a brand new 1977 operating system bike.
Right.
And he told all these mechanics who are only used to changing variators and spark plugs, you're probably not ready to deal with a two-stroke if your only sphere of influence is a single cylinder, 2-valve, 150, right? Four-stroke. And I thought it was hilarious. And Rolf points to me and he's like, because we got approved by Rolf Soltau back in the supersonic scooter days in 1998, 1999-ish, 2000. They came out to us to train us on Vespa products. We didn't go to them. And Rolf came out, and we're a two-stroke tuner shop. That's what we did, was we built race bikes. And Rolf came out, and we drank beers and chased girls and did all the fun stuff that you do. And he knew that we were two-stroke guys. But when it comes out to like training all these people who have been doing Vespas for 5 years, and this is their first time ever seeing a two-stroke motor, oh shit, man. The problems were overwhelming. The four-stroke manual transmission that's controlled by, the four-speed manual transmission that's controlled by two different cables that both need to be adjusted very fine. A cable-operated clutch. Everything on that thing is a 70-year-old operating system.
Well, we used to have to tell people, like, look, yes, there's a shift pattern on the bar.
It doesn't line up.
It's just to tell you how everything is. It doesn't mean that when you shift into first gear, the line is going to match up.
It tells you the sequence, not the location.
It tells you the order. It does not tell you the location.
You do not find neutral by clicking it into the
and
place
making
where
it line up.
Yeah.
That was always the first question, is like, well, none of these gears line up with the indicator on the handlebars. I'm like, well, they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Like, otherwise the four would be down fucking here, you know? Yeah. And like your cables are going to go out of adjustment in the first 10 miles.
If you're if you really want to not put it in neutral, and when you have it in neutral, take your marker out and draw a line across
Remark
there.
it, yeah.
And even then it won't work because you have to go past and then let it settle in. Like, because cables stretch.
Yeah.
Like an old German car with a stick.
Right.
When the bushings start wearing, you don't know where. I mean,
Third gear could be anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And so that was with two strokes, and we were joking. I mean, we talk about this. That's what that bike's doing sitting there, because yes, every once in a while, one of these 2005 Stellas finds its way home. That particular one has 600 miles on it.
I know.
It's got a Cedo Plus on it, because the hot setup to do now, Cedo Plus, you can't buy those exhausts anymore. So there's good ones, SIP Road and other good exhausts. But that particular bike, because those bikes were a lot lean, so they were a lot lean, and being that it is a 3-port motor, and it does not have some of the same characteristics as a Stella. The Stella, you could run like through first gear, and you could really use all of that motor. Well, the Vespa, it's a little touchier, let's say. So it goes from I've got this to I don't have this, and it's now a wheelie I can't control in about 1 nanosecond.
Oh, wow.
So I did take that out, and the mirror was broken, so I had to retap the headset. And so I retapped the headset, got the mirror on and stuff like that. And I was like, well, let's make sure this mirror isn't going to just break off. So I got to do like 400 wheelies in the parking lot. So I was doing wheelies in the parking lot, and it reminded me, I was like, with Stellas, I could do a very predictable wheelie with a Stella, and I just knew where the power was going to be. But with these things, it was never the same place twice. And I'll admit it, that these ones were harder to wheelie for some reason than the Stellas were. Yeah.
I think it needs an owner, and I think it needs blue checkers.
Blue checkers, exactly, right. Yeah.
There is one thing that I will say about a rotary valve or a piston port two-stroke. I think they get you on the top end. They don't have the low end. They don't have the fuel economy. Yeah. But a piston port or a rotary valve motor, when you hit the RPMs, they're just like...
And there's what's called over rev too. So over rev is when you're beyond where your practical power band would be, and now you're well beyond it. And I mean, you've got a rally now. Do you have a kit in your motor?
Nope.
You're still stock 200, right? And that motor is a notoriously torquey motor in the Vespa community. There was something just extra sweet about the crank on a Rally 200. I don't know what it was, but every Rally 200 I've ever had was a better performer than the following generation's P200. Yeah.
Well, and since this is a scooter podcast, I'll say that I got the SIP Road exhaust on it.
Yeah.
And that is definitely an exhaust that favors the lower end as well. So it is a torque monster. But once you get up high, it's got nothing.
It falls off.
Yeah.
What is the top speed of that bike?
I have no idea. My speedometer says like 120. But well, it bounces. Going at the same speed, it bounces around from 60 to 120.
And practically speaking, a bone stock Rally 200 out of the box was good for about 64 to 70 miles per hour, depending on
about right,
where you were, depending on the bike. And the P200s were a little slower,
But it's crazy. So like when we built my Stella, and with the 177 kit and stuff like that, that fucker would hit 70 miles an hour, no problem.
Oh God, yeah.
That thing was.
You could build a Stella motor perfectly. Like there's the Go Gorilla guys, and there's been so many guys that really did nail down Stella tuning. They did a hell of a job nailing it down and doing a lot of work to get there, spend a lot of money to get there. Or you could just be like, fuck it, I bought a Plini kit, and you could like bolt a Plini kit on with a Ceto Plus pipe and be like block long wheelies and just more power than you ever fucking needed. And everybody did. We all, Shade Tree Mechanic, we figured out the ways to like things you could do to the air filter, things you could do to the jetting, things you could do that were very minor that got you big gains. Yeah.
But that being said, don't take off the plastic sleeve that goes over the cylinder.
The cooling
That's
shroud.
Important.
It's super important. Because
very important.
It's a forced air cooling system. And so anybody who's ever had a Corvair or anybody who's ever had a Volkswagen Beetle, if you take off all that tin, if you take off all that metal, the cooling air doesn't go where it's got to go.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But the engine looks better that way.
It does. You can see all the fins.
It runs so good for like 3 minutes. It's fucking awesome.
That is so true.
You should have at least taken your side panel off, your cowl off, so
that's true.
Get a little air over those fins.
That's right.
I lucked out. I had my daughter, who was like 9 at the time, on the back, and I'm doing 65 down a hill towards Chagrin Falls, and then all of a sudden it got real smooth, and I was like, "Wow, this thing's running great!" And then the back tire was like,
That's what we tell you.
Clutch. Okay.
That's the thing I missed out on.
Right.
No clutch.
No clutch.
It runs the best right before it blows up.
And it really does. And that's a real thing. And
Can we talk about Nick's shirt?
we can talk about Nick's shirt. So I would like to call attention to...
Nick, why don't you step over to the camera over here?
I'm sure they can see it.
I'm sure they can see it.
So I walked over to the bathroom, and as soon as I opened the door and turned the light on, I'm like, holy crap.
So let me just describe Nick's shirt. It's a very nice gray button-down shirt and everything. But right over here on your chest is the side cover off of a Suzuki motorcycle.
Yep.
So did you make this shirt, or did it come into your life through a purchase?
This shirt was given to me.
Oh, well, that's okay. Well, that's cool. Okay, so somebody loved you enough
Oh, yeah.
to hook you up with this super cool Suzuki shirt. Now, you're a Suzuki rider. You have the Bandit, so you're definitely aficionado of
I've
Suzuki.
had many Suzukis.
And honestly, that could probably protect you from bees. Like if they were going to hit
You think
your
that would
heart
stop
when
a
you was
bullet?
I
riding.
got a bee
I don't think
sting
it'll
on
stop
the
a bullet.
motorcycle the other day. I was riding along on the Super Hawk, and I got it stung twice on my leg.
I got stung
Not
in
to-
the eye with Dan.
Oh my god!
On my 850, the fucking I had my helmet open this much,
Yep.
and that fucker flew in and stung my eye here and here and here, and I'm blinking the lights and I'm trying to tell him to stop, but Dan can't hear anything, so he's fucking riding out.
Oh, he's going 90 miles an hour.
So I'm in this parking lot, like trying to remove a bee from my eye, and he comes back. He's like, "What's the problem?" I had a fucking bee in my eye, dude.
Nick, is that made out of aluminium or some other substance?
I believe it is aluminium.
Is it solid? Does it bend, or is it? Oh, it comes off.
It's a little bit bent.
Oh, good lord!
Jeez.
We know it's not adamantium.
What? Well, is it Velcroed on there?
No, it's adhesive backed. Very lovely.
Oh, okay.
This is actually in the Suzuki catalog.
They are. They're $24.95.
I'm surprised people haven't like drilled a hole in them and put a gold chain around it.
Okay, Captain Suzuki. I like your shirt.
I'm the Suzuki guy.
Okay,
here. It's
let's all have a drink to Captain Suzuki.
Captain Suzuki.
Nice. But
I have something else I want to talk to Nick
But
about.
for an update, the Mint 850 is now Mint 850 again.
It is.
Everything is back to normal. There's nothing related. It is
Scary as she was before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, better because it's a new $11 part and a new 24. They're little. They're new.
They're new.
Shinier.
They're fresher.
Shinier. Yep.
They're fresher. And that is kind of cool. I mean, let's think about that. So it's 1982, right?
Yep.
So 1982, and you were able to buy off-the-shelf, out-the-box parts.
Yep. You can't buy gas tanks. You can't buy side covers. You can't buy tachometers or speedometers new. But any of the small shit that nobody else ever broke, totally
I
available.
think I know where you bought this stuff from, because when I had my SP250 and SP200, it was the same thing. You get any sort of little, tail light gasket.
Any gasket, any-
Who was it?
So it's OEM stuff? Or?
No, it's
Wow.
it's Suzuki parts bit or Suzuki.
Suzuki. If you Google Suzuki Parts House,
something like that.
Yeah.
Yep, they still have all.
You
this
might
stuff.
want to bookmark that, Phil.
Yeah, no shit, huh?
Yep, but it's pretty amazing. Like you can still get carburetor boots, rubber boots, petcocks, weird trim like the little. So those dots on the top that you think would be like accessing your valve covers or something, they're not. They're just decoration.
No, they're
so they're just like
decoration,
little chrome decorations.
You can't get
those.
your valve covers from there. You
No.
cannot get your valves from there.
No,
I
you
tell
can't. Like
that.
I was hoping there was just like valve check
No.
ports.
Hey.
Not so much. No. So it's just.
Wouldn't it be nice if that was like, you take off 2 Phillips heads, or take out 2 JISs, you pull it off, and there's this eccentric cam in there that you can just be like an old Honda scooter, like an Elite 250, you just be like, tap, 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 tap. That's perfect. And then lock it down while it's running. Oh, if you haven't tuned an Elite 250 or a Helix 250, like you could totally fucking dial in the valves on a Helix 250
It's ridiculous.
while it's running. It's a fucking lever.
Yeah, it's genius because the support rod for the rocker is concentric.
Yes.
And then that goes all the way out to the outside of the motor, where there's a slotted, marked little concentric thing with a couple set screws in it. So you loosen those up, and when you're turning it, you're actually changing your thing. Like, so you can just, like he said, tune it by,
You can
set
tune
them
it
by ear.
The correct manual. So according to the owner's manual of the Honda Elite 250, the CH250, and also thereby the Honda Helix, is loosen the valve adjuster lock bolts, which are located on the left side of the cylinder head. Move the intake and exhaust adjusters outward, away from each other, fully until resistance is felt. Once they feel resistance, then move them inward towards each other, one graduation, and tighten the lock bolts, which is the factory method for adjusting one's valves.
Wow.
It takes not a minute. I mean, if it takes you a minute, you're doing it wrong.
That's amazing.
There is no excuse why they can't have the same thing on any workman-like motorcycle. Like if you're racing motorcycles, sure, I understand why it wouldn't want to be that way. But realistically, these Elite 250 motors and these Helix 250 motors, they run for hundreds of thousands of miles.
Right. There's no reason.
And they encourage frequent valve adjustment so you don't tend to burn them up. Yeah, it's pretty smart. And
Am I wrong though? Isn't it sort of like that on a CB350?
I think that
where you have those weird adjusters where you have to turn. You don't actually adjust tappets on the end of the rockers. You actually turn those 2 screws.
You turn the 2 screws that turn the rotational
I
cam.
might be confused. I'm not sure.
So I do have because of like having to repair a few things, I kind of got into searching.
Yeah.
And so on both my bikes, the speedometer only goes to 85.
Correct.
Because they were
That's
like,
right.
nobody's going to go faster than 85, even
Ever.
though the bike goes 130 or whatever.
Yeah.
So my speedometer was jumpy. And so
Okay.
I looked into redoing the speedometer, and it's a giant pain in the ass and only works sometimes.
Okay.
So
Did you have to use a degaussing coil?
probably.
Yeah.
It was definitely something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
But so I went onto eBay and I was looking for gauges and I couldn't find anything. And I hit refresh.
Yeah.
And the JDM version that goes to 140 miles an hour popped up with
Nice.
a brand new tach and everything. So
Nice.
$50 and I got that.
Are you kidding
But
me?
here's the best part. So my bike at the time has 16,142 miles on it or something.
Oh, what's
Okay,
it got
yeah,
now?
yeah.
What's it got now?
No, the things,
Oh.
16,200. It's like 3 miles difference.
Wow.
Get out of here.
it's
Oh
like,
my
it's-
God.
I do have to disassemble everything and kind of pop
Yeah, you
the
do,
new
yeah,
things
right.
and so whatever, but
Yeah, in
it
the
should be
housings.
cool. And now I'll have 140 mile an hour speed.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And you get rid of that stupid fucking 85 mile an hour speedo.
Yeah, like what were they thinking?
I know what they were thinking. You know, if you can't prove how fast you were going, you won't try to go that fast.
Right.
Right.
Officer, it was just stuck at 85.
I
have
was going
no idea.
115 miles an hour. You don't know how fast you were going. Right. Yeah, why would anybody ever need to go that fast?
Never.
85 miles an hour is all your speedo should ever have to show you. It's enough to go to jail
max
anywhere.
speed on any highway in America?
Right. And they were like,
70.
and then add 10.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. It was bullshit. Like all of that stuff, that whole period of the 80s is one of those ones you're just like, God, we failed so hard.
Holy crap, that is
Isn't that amazing?
That is fantastic.
It's fantastic. It's one of those beers that you're just
Have
like,
Johnny get you another one too.
Is that the lemonade?
yes, this
Lemon
is lemon.
shandy.
Lemon
Oh,
shandy.
yeah, that
it
is
is
good.
Oh, good.
Oh, I'm good. I got
Yeah.
one more. Thanks.
Go-kart Ghost.
So,
Did we lose Grumpy Store Guy?
Well, he was having some snoozes.
He's getting some fresh air.
You know what? He's getting some fresh air. So
Love is like oxygen.
I think that because Kit is up at his house in Speculator, New York, and so I think he's been enjoying his me time.
yeah.
I would be.
But
Yeah.
we're going to go all next week. We're all going up to raid his New York house.
I love the fact that Kit is like, oh, so all your friends are coming up to our cabin in New York?
I'll go home.
I'm going home. Yeah. No, they're all going to show. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
You're
that's
bringing
great.
a boatload of COVID up here?
Right. Yeah.
No, thank you.
And man stink. Yeah.
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 So the other thing I wanted to ask my good friend Nick about was, how did racing your brand new car go?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Autocross, baby.
So wait, let's refresh people. So you bought a brand new car,
Yeah.
then stabbed a mirror into it,
Right.
and then fixed it, and now
Sort
it's
of.
great. It's perfect again.
Yeah.
But then you took it to do what?
I took it autocrossing.
Just of course you did.
How many miles were on the
So
car?
this is a
Did you
Hyundai
break it in?
Velociter.
Did I break it in? What the hell? It's broken
broken.
from the factory. What the hell?
Sure it is.
He broke something.
Of course it is.
So how many miles until you went and autocrossed this car?
Maybe 370 or
All
something.
right.
Perfect.
All right,
Perfect.
there you go. Yeah,
So-
I get that.
Does it still have the original oil in it? Did you even do an
Yes,
oil
it has
change?
the original oil.
He wants to make sure to break it in correctly.
Right.
Yeah,
Use that braking
well,
oil
a lot
for the
of
way you're
people
supposed
say
to.
break
Right.
it in how you're going to drive it.
Right,
And
that's
that's how
it.
you're going to
There
drive
you
it.
go.
So
Yeah.
So I took it to this autocross event. It was the first time I've ever done an autocross.
Right.
Because I've done rallycross before, which is basically the same thing but on grass.
There's grass. Yeah.
So I took this car.
And where was the autocross?
It was actually at Dragway 42.
Okay.
So for those who aren't around here, there's a drag strip, maybe about a half hour from Akron. I don't know how far from here, but they have all this infield section where it's like there's lots of little roads and stuff for. Well, I would imagine they have a bunch of cars going through there when they go to the drag strip, then go back and go around and to paddocks and whatever. But anyways, for the autocross, they set up this whole matrix of infield roads
Chicanes and stuff like that.
as a racetrack. So the top, a run was maybe 65 seconds.
That's pretty
That's
good.
that's what it looks like.
There you go.
So if you guys want to take a look at it.
So I think the maximum speed I got on one of the straights was maybe around 65, 70 miles an hour. But most of it is probably around 35, 40 miles an hour.
So not a high velocity.
No.
Velocity.
And they did the thing with the cones where like pointing this way means you go that side and pointing.
And it was really easy with this because a lot of times they're autocrossing in a parking lot,
Right.
so it's easy to get
It's very
confused
confusing.
where
Yeah.
to go. But this was pretty.
And these are
natural.
the asphalt roads that were poured to basically be paddock roads.
Yep.
So that people have their campers and stuff there when they're drag racing. They tend to camp along these access roads. And I've seen a number of different racetracks do this as a way to kind of get more money in, right? Honestly. Yeah. So that's very cool.
So
how'd you do?
there were, I think, 8 people in my class. Several of them had much nicer tires than I did. And I came in second in my class.
because your tires were the tires the factory gave it,
Yeah,
right?
they're Pirelli P0s. So they're
P0s,
like
yeah.
a 300 tread rating tire. And the lower the better. And you're allowed to have 200 tread wear tires. So a lot of them had their...
A 200 tire is a tire that's not going to last you very long.
Right.
It's super sticky.
Basically just an autocross tire.
What, the 680s aren't
It's
good?
made out of condom.
The 680s aren't good. No, but you're going to get hell of a good mileage while you're doing it.
Yep.
Yeah. You'll use the least gas.
It's like that. I love making you laugh.
It's funny.
So the first place in my class was an Audi TT Quattro who had track tires
And four-wheel drive.
and 4-wheel drive. He had less horsepower than I did, but he also had a Nürburgring sticker in the window. So that counts
Oh,
for
that's
something.
5 horsepower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they have a rainbow sticker too?
If you have a Nürburgring sticker in your window, then you know
But he did race 3 Camaros, so
it's going to be less.
Right
It's
there.
going to be less comfortable. That's for sure.
So this guy had actual good tires, and he was about a second per lap faster than I was. So.
Okay. Well, that's a second per lap, huh?
Yep.
And these are 10 laps per race or 5 laps per
I
race?
think I had 6 runs.
Okay.
It's not continuous. You do
No.
one run, and then you have to wait a while, and then do it.
Do you get a trophy or a plaque or anything?
I don't know because I left early.
Oh, you did?
is it cumulative time or is it individual lap
It's
time?
individual lap. You're
Yeah.
just going for a lap.
Your best lap.
Okay.
You dropped
So
the
I
mic
could-
and took off.
I could do the dump truck. I could race the dump
You
truck.
could.
What's tech
Well-
look like?
I wasn't allowed to autocross the Fiat, keep in mind, because it's taller than it is wide.
Right. It has a certain tip over standard.
Right.
But you could autocross it. I mean, you could.
You could rally
yeah,
across a
yeah.
dump truck.
Yeah, my Outlander would not work. I'd say no.
You could
There's
rally
like a
across it.
warning on the thing that says don't turn
really?
sharp. It'll
Don't turn sharp.
fall over.
Don't turn. You can already go straight.
But I want you to read this so that you know that you're not turning. And I mean, like,
Right.
that's one of those stickers you're like, why put that on the inside of the fucking visor
Right.
when I'm clearly going to be giving myself driver inattention while I'm trying to read this thing?
Right.
And I'm going to run over somebody.
Should be in the middle
It
of the
sh-
windshield.
It should be in the middle. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Do not
there any-
possibly.
Were there any extremely expensive cars there?
There was a Corvette C8
Wow.
that I don't know how well it was doing. There was a couple, purpose built.
Well, was the Corvette C8 in first place?
I have no idea.
Then you beat it. So shut the fuck up.
He wasn't in my class. So
Oh, he
I
wasn't in your
didn't care,
class.
yeah.
Okay, never mind.
But there was like a University of Akron Formula SAE car.
How many Miatas? There had to be.
Oh,
a
there
shit
was
There's
ton.
a
it's,
boat.
All of
it's a
them.
never-ending parade of Miatas. Yeah,
Pretty much. There was a Caterham Super 7, or it was probably a kit car.
I was gonna say,
version
it's
of that.
probably a-
But it was powered by a Suzuki GSXR.
Oh, a locust. A
Yep.
locust. Yeah.
That was, it sounded good. I don't
Yeah,
know.
those are
if it
cool.
was, but-
Yeah.
That's what my buddy just he has a Miata. He does track days.
Right.
And he just upgraded. He bought a new Miata and sold his old Miata because this has more track stuff, whatever.
We talked about the car show on the last podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Oh no, we didn't.
oh well, no, you're right. Not the one we went.
Not the
to,
one we
right?
just went to. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
One of
Well,
those
that was-
huge wall
that was on
speakers
Sunday.
that you
That was
need
on Sunday.
earplugs.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
that was the COVID transmission party. That,
Yes, it was. Yeah, that was definitely
Kinda
the
hung
COVID
back
transmission
from that.
Right.
party.
I
yeah.
would have come to that, but I was at the autocross at the exact same time.
Well, you were doing something that involved moving cars.
Yeah,
Right.
we got to watch. We learned
The car that won our event that
Yeah.
we went to, the car that won our event was actually on a rollback.
Yeah, he was on
So
a trailer
He was on a rollback
and never left the trailer.
and never left the rollback and
he
won.
won.
He won.
So I'm good. We looked like such old men because like there's like 1,000 people, 700 people, 500
Oh
people,
yeah,
like
yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
people.
A lot of people. Yeah.
And so they're like everybody starts going toward this thing and cars are lining up and we're like, oh shit, drag racing, this is cool. Like
Oh, we were very excited.
There's-
There was going to be some activity in the
but it
Kmart
seems
parking
like
lot.
There's cops here, so how are they going
Right.
to pull this off?
Yeah.
So all these people pile up, and Phil's like, "What's going on here?" And this one kid's like, two-step contest.
oh,
We're like, "We're they going to dance?"
That's what I said. I was like, play the Garth Brooks and let's see what these fucking guys throw down, man.
So we're all
Right.
clueless, and we look like such assholes, but we're like, "What is two-step?" And they're like, they bring the cars up onto the turbo, the two-step of the turbo. And then they pedal them, and then it makes bangs. Yeah, that's what this is. These people line up, and they have to line up. I don't
And
know
it's a
why
two-step battle. Lining up is retarded because they each do at their own time.
At
So it's
their
like
own time,
you
yeah.
go and then you go. So you
But
don't need to be lined
It's not
up.
even like how do you say it?
Bosuzuka? Yeah.
Which is cool because
is
they're
cutting
making
calls.
sounds
Right.
and doing
They're
stuff. and
singing
everything.
songs with their throttle.
So these guys just go and they imitate an M16 firing as fast as it can.
And yeah, it's who has the best laptop wins.
Yeah.
Because really, that's what we discovered is all the cats were like, hold on. Like there's a guy in the middle who's pretending to start this shit.
Yep.
Like he's usually fat and his pants are usually around his knees or what have you, but he's the guy who's going to run this thing. Like
we
Ann
security
Margaret
guy.
would be throwing the fucking
Right, but you also had the security guy with like 17 guns, an earpiece, and he was like all up to the cops, going like, "I'm your buddy, man.
Blue Lives Matter.
Yeah, we're cool." Like,
And-
I was gonna be a cop, but I couldn't get through. I can't.
Right.
So
I'm not going to say why.
Yeah.
But these are deadly weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the long and short of it was, I had to register myself.
Yeah.
But this race or this event, again, it has all the trappings of gross acceleration.
Yeah,
And John and I used to do, we've been to parties where we've done the 10-foot drags,
which is fun.
which for the record, don't do that.
No, but it's
unless
fun.
you're fucked up.
It's fun as shit.
It's fun as shit because you're in gravel or dirt or grass, and it's literally two bikes, usually horribly mismatched, and then some version of Ann Margaret who goes, go, and you guys both have to go 10 feet.
Well, you never can tell who can go 10 feet the fastest. It might
It's
surprise
very
you.
interesting.
Yeah.
I tried. Remember, I had the Bajaj scooter the one time, the 4-stroke, and I beat like a lot of people.
A lot of flywheel on that.
A
little
lot of
thing.
flywheel mass, and I was hooking up good. I had knobbies on it, and I beat a whole lot of people. I mean, it took a guy with a drag bike, like 300 horsepower, to beat a 9-horsepower Bajaj. But a 4-stroke with a heavy flywheel is perfect for launching in grass and mud. Like
Actually, throwing your body forward a little bit.
it really does help. And I ran like 100 runs, and nobody could catch the fucking Bajaj, And we just sit there, blah, 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 and they'd go boop, and I just go, blah, and the Bajaj just was there. It was, and they're like, he won again.
Well, and too much power, you just spin the tires.
Well, that was what happened. 90% of the people just screwed the bike into the ground or just dug a trench.
Right.
Most of the people, the bike's heavy enough, the tire spins, it digs a trench, you'll go nowhere.
Right.
Hence, the fun of it is that everybody who has a lot of horsepower just digs in.
Right. It's a technique. You got to get the
technique. And it pays to have a light bike with a heavy flywheel. And like the guys that had proper old dirt bikes with like big, like that guy with a XT500 that had tires that had every other row of knobbies taken out.
Right.
Was just like, as soon as he let go of the clutch, the trick was just where the front wheel was going to be.
Right.
It was just keeping the front wheel down. So this race,
When they take off, everybody's like, whoa, because the
God.
earth moved a little bit.
that is torque, my friend. This race is basically a car has 2 rev limiters. A modern car with a turbo has 2 rev limiters.
Right.
It has a rev limiter for we don't want you to blow your motor up.
Gotcha.
We've all heard that before. It's ding, 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 ding.
Right.
And then it has another rev limiter that's called launch control. And launch control is where the RPMs are perfect for the right launch. And that's like 3,800 RPMs or something like that. It's considerably lower than the motor devastation.
Which the Veloster has from the factory.
Right, exactly. It has launch control from the
two-step
factory.
launch control, yep.
And so when you put the car into launch control and you put your foot on the gas, which what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to be then following that by dropping the clutch or taking your foot off the brake. When you do that in a modern sporty car, it does that noise. It just goes to 3,600 RPM, and the car keeps trying to go faster than 3,600, and it keeps cutting the spark. And so it wants to go faster, and the car clips the spark. It wants to go faster, and the car clips the spark. Well, all those times it clips the spark are unburnt charges of gasoline going into a red-hot turbo. And so it goes pop. Well, these guys then did everything they could do to make the pop into a bang.
Yep.
And a louder bang. And then they stuttered their exhaust timing even more. I'm sorry, their spark timing even more to essentially just make it a chain. And it does turn out the guys who won had little tiny Japanese cars with rotaries in them.
Yeah.
And turbos.
Oh, yeah, that one truck.
The one pickup truck with a turbo in it. I'm sorry, with a rotary in it.
Oh, that was great.
It was fantastic. And and the guy just literally sat there and played it like a musical instrument and just was like, it did sound like in the military, we used to say Mod Deuce. The Mod Deuce or Ma Deuce, 50 cal has a very distinctive sound. And we used to replicate it by going up to the guy who had the biggest ears in the platoon. And you'd go up to the guy who had the biggest ears in the platoon, and you'd grab him by the ears and go bang, 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 bang. And then his job was to say clank, 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 clank to the links for the belt of ammunition. So you'd go bang, 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 and he'd go clank, 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 clank. And it was actually loads of fun.
Yeah.
But then if you try it sometimes, it's really enjoyable. But then the fun thing is if you're a dick, then you just yell
All right,
stoppage.
Cinch, get on your knees.
All right,
You yell stoppage, and smash him in the back of the head. You go clang, clang, bang, 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 stoppage, smash him, and that's when. It's usually when it's done. He's not going to let you do that again.
But so we're watching this debacle go on.
Oh my god!
And then this kid pops out with a box by his car, and he puts on reggaeton, and it's loud. It's pretty loud, right? So then this other car, this Honda Fit, backs up. And like this woman and a kid and a husband get out, and they're sitting there, and then he opens the back, and there's just a wall of speakers, and then he pulls out his box and puts it on top of the car, and then the other guy's like, this other dude's like, oh,
and I can tell you what's in that box. It's not hearing protection.
No,
because all the kids had like blood trails coming out of their fucking ears.
But the best thing is so like this dude's like, oh shit, I have a competitor, so he turns his reggaeton up, and it's like, boom,
they weren't 70 feet apart,
boom, and then this guy's like, no, fuck you. And he was like this. And then the whole world was like, I mean,
when the speakers pull back, it sucks the air out of your lungs.
Yes.
Like, he was 1 second from a serious brown note. If he would have hit a little lower, I would have shit myself. My stomach was just destroyed.
And you could feel it like go right into your spine.
Yeah.
The front of Kmart, the front of the dilapidated, the front of the world's
abandoned.
And we should admit, folks,
zombie.
This is west side of Cleveland.
Yeah.
This is literally where people go to film low budget zombie movies. This is a Kmart that they just went like this. Fuck it. And they walked away.
Yep.
They walked away. And there's been nobody in there for any good since then.
And here's the thing. The locals that are not part of the car show may not had pants on.
The buck and a cigarette.
They may or may not have been complete crackheads. We don't know. But they definitely asked for a ride from you.
They wanted a ride in my little Japanese cars.
Right.
And they wanted cigarettes.
And she was lonely and sad.
She was lonely and sad.
But then she was with her boyfriend later.
Right.
Yeah. It was interesting.
But he's cooler than I am because he has tattoos.
He does.
And I don't.
Yeah. And that was, I mean, it was sad.
And no shirt and no teeth.
But it was a really fun car show because that was interesting because
a lot of nice people, a lot of very
really
nice
super nice people, and that was what I was going to say.
It was a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, me too.
And they're doing it again this Sunday night.
The Latin crew that showed up with all the old school fucking JDM stuff.
1969 Toyota Corona.
Oh,
yeah, it was so
lowered
cool.
and beautiful and just nice.
And what do you call them? Suzuki Slammer Ice.
Yeah, Suzuki Slammer Ice. That's my favorite car, man. Take a Suzuki Samurai and just scrape the ground with it.
Yeah,
I think it's adorable and silly.
And the dude that so you had four JDM.
I had 4 JDM cars there. Yeah.
So the dude that showed up next to you with the Jimmy.
He brought a Jimny. So it's an interesting thing. There's a letter N there.
Yeah, right.
And so a Suzuki Jimny is a Japanese domestic market 660cc, what we got here and called a Samurai. You know,
with tin top though, right?
Right.
The tin top.
Yeah, it was a tin top, so it was a hard top. And this guy had imported this thing from Japan and just did a gorgeous job.
It was mint.
It was beautiful,
beautiful, man.
Gorgeous workmanship.
He had the perfect tires and rims.
He did.
He couldn't have gone a quarter millimeter more. It was like just perfect.
They might not have actually worked, but it looked like you gave an artist license to like, I want you to draw this car and then I want you to put the perfect size tires underneath it to like make it look aesthetically pleasing.
Like he couldn't drive over a curb without fucking something up.
Yeah.
But
stands for days.
Well, this Sunday, you know, hey, I think it might be Hearst time because we showed up with a relatively normal shit.
Take that over there at some point.
Yeah,
but, I mean, it's a pain in the ass to get it out.
It's a pain in the ass to get it out, but it's totally worth it.
If you had some little helper trolls or Smurfs to move everything out so you could get it out.
Well, no, the hearse is at my house now.
Oh, okay.
Did you know that?
So it's not landlocked.
Yeah, but it's landlocked in my garage too.
Okay,
so
you still might need Smurfs.
Well, yeah, we could just do my garage and bring 5 cars, 5 different cars, and we could just bring 5.
Drive to Phil's house,
get
grab a car,
5 weird cars
there.
and drive back over here. Yeah, exactly. Make a party out of it.
Well, I did drive you back a few times.
Yeah, you definitely did because I was walking back from the Kmart. It's 10 minutes, no big deal. Kind of like a range walk. You know, military guys, it's a range walk. It's not jogging and it's not walking. It's range walking. And I was doing that back and forth. I did that to load up. I did that 4 trips. And then Steve showed up, which was super cool. So he showed up with a high ace, and nobody'd ever seen a high ace before.
But that freak in that red pickup truck, you have to tell him that story.
Oh, we're out here, like I'm walking back to the shop, and I hear this like, fuck you, motherfucker, fuck you, you piece of shit, what the fuck? And I look over, and it's like what I'm going to call a red hat enthusiast, right? And he's driving a very large red Chevy pickup truck.
Yeah.
And it's, it's rust the bottom 4 inches or 6 inches.
As they do.
Right. But it's very tall, and it's got very, very flexible tires on it. And it's an extended cab, and it's got a lot of stickers in the back about what kind of guns he owns.
Yeah, and hunting and just.
And don't get me wrong, I too am a firearms enthusiast.
Yep.
So don't judge me harshly. I'm not against you.
I think there's not anybody here that's not a 2A appreciator.
Right, we get it,
Yeah,
right?
that's fine.
And so I hear this kerfuffle going on, and you're literally driving the other way, right?
Yeah, I'm looking
So
at
you're-
this guy screaming at
the guy in the black, what could be probably a Mazda RX-8 or some small.
It had a fin on the.
It had a fin on the back. It was some breed of shark. I don't know. I saw the fin. I knew it was trouble in the water. So they're yelling back and forth at each other. And eventually the guy in the light changes, and the guy in the black, Japanese sports car is like, fuck this guy. He's behind me. And he's driving American Failure, right? So he's like, I could just leave, man. So he does what I would do, and that's just like, leave.
Yeah.
The problem is literally behind you. So he does. Off he fucks with great anticipation and great enthusiasm. So away he goes, and he just does that thing like a Batmobile, just kind of like, and he just disappears.
Yeah.
But this guy has to give it like the full right foot treatment, and like pushes that Chevy Vortec motor for all it's worth. And you can hear the tires spooling up, and he's gaining inertia as he goes past the Dunkin' Donuts. And I hear this motor just like doing all of its best work to move this, half-ton pickup truck down the road. And he loses it.
Oh, no.
He loses it. And he's on a straight road, mind you.
Right.
So he loses it hard. And not far from us, we have a street, like, maybe 100 feet from us, that street goes north. And that street goes north by the American Karate Exchange, one of my favorite signs in all of Cleveland, because they have like a cube van out front that's just painted red, white, and blue with Uncle Sam giving a Chuck Norris kick.
Because they trade punches.
That's true. They do trade punches. So
Are you hungry? I'll give you a knuckle sandwich.
I'll give you a knuckle sandwich. So I think what he did was
How about I feed you a jab?
I think what he thought was, the guy in the Japanese car was going to make a right down at Rocky River, and he was going to make a right and cut him off.
Oh.
Okay? Because most people down there do tend to turn right. I think he thought he was going to go through the residential fucking neighborhood with his half-ton 4x4 truck and cut this guy off. Well, he blew the fuck out of it, and he destroyed a dude sitting in a Honda Civic. A guy sitting in like a $500 Honda Civic.
Like just happy to have a car.
Just happy to have a car, sitting in a red light, stationary, and this giant red truck tries to eat him.
Oh, dude.
And goes through and over the entire front of his car and is like kissing close to American Karate Exchange, like making a whole new drive-through out of the place. Well, then, so I'm back here and I see the whole thing happen. I'm like, that guy's a cunt. That guy's a foot. And I'm like, he's horrible. And I don't want anything to do with this dick. So, but then I got really angry. I was like, fuck that guy. I watched the whole thing happen. He's just being a piece of shit.
Right.
And one, you got no car.
Right.
You can't catch him. He's in a high-performance Japanese fun vehicle, and you're in that piece of shit. So unless you're plowing the back 40, give up, man. You don't have it. You might have out-talked him. You can't outwalk him, right? So I jump in my little extremely turbo-powered Mitsubishi or Daihatsu Mira, and I drive over there just to survey the damage. And I wanted to see if he actually went into the building, because there was a pretty loud noise.
Yeah.
There was a lot of noise and a lot of smoke. I go over there. This guy's getting his kid out of the back of the truck.
Oh, no.
This fuck-knuckle did all this road rage shit with his baby in the car. And when I saw that, I became an asshole then. I became Karen.
Yeah, well, you
I
deserve
became all of the worst things in the world. I had an opinion. I wanted to talk to his manager. I wanted all the things instantly. I shamed him publicly. I was like, you non-driving piece of shit.
Yeah.
You got into a verbal, and he's like, we exchanged words. Words were exchanged. And I said, then why were you trying to accelerate to 50 miles an hour on a 35 mile an hour road?
Right.
And then make this impossible turn and kill this man's car? And the poor guy with the Civic was crushed, and he's like calling his wife, and he's like, honey, I'm going to be late. Somebody just drove over my car. Right? Literally. And guy drove over his car. So yeah, that was on the way to the car show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was fun. It was a weird night. Shit happened.
It was a great night.
Yeah.
It was like like you had replied to our group text and said, I'm going to go to this car show.
Yeah.
And I was looking for something to do, and I was like,
That guy
was
looks
Sunday
like
night.
Dennis Kucinich so much.
but I expected it to be like 15 dudes hanging out in a parking lot.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect.
With you, like, with a bunch of cars going, like, well, this sucks.
Yeah, this sucks.
And
yeah.
we get there. and
I
it's
thought
like,
you would have half the cars there.
yeah. I really
I did not have half
too.
the cars there.
And I show up, and I couldn't. When I got there, you were surrounded. You and all your JDM cars were
Yeah.
surrounded by about 100 people.
Yeah, we had all.
And you had your mask on, and you were
Yeah.
covering your eyes, and you were moving backwards, like, please don't breathe on me.
A lot of people fell in on me at the same
Yeah,
time when
yeah.
you showed up, before you showed up, because it was just like
I'm glad I got there late then.
they'd kind of
Oh, it
taken a
was
lap,
weird.
and we were.
And they all had shirts. They were all part of a crew.
So there's a night
night something. What
Yeah,
was it?
night drivers or whatever. Yeah,
Not
They had
Latin- not
a
Latin nights.
Viking
no, it was a sumo. It was a
sumo. Yeah,
Sumo guy with pistons. it was
Yeah,
really
that was
cool.
very cool.
or I'm sorry, it was samurai. Samurai with pistons
Yeah.
on his helmet.
But what was it? Night
Riders or something.
something.
Something
Yeah,
akin to
yeah.
that. Night something. But anyway, they're all super sweet. And I know them from the other car show they do on Thursday nights right by Porco. And they are total JDM guys. Like,
And they're
they
like-
love the
It's
JDM.
a big Latin crew, right?
Yeah, it's a Latin crew. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
they
they're
were-
Latin
they were
crew.
super
Yeah.
cool.
And they're extremely nice people. And they bring their whole families out, and they all have matching T-shirts, like nylon shirts that are like team
They're
shirts.
like the NASCAR shirts.
Yeah, they are. They're really cool. Like,
The dye sublimation shirts.
yes, they
is what
are.
call
That's
them.
right.
it.
And there's a lot going on there. Like, you can tell they love this. And these guys work on their cars.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have 19 cars. These guys have an car,
Yeah.
and it is fucking amazing.
And
Yeah.
it's like, and the cars they have, the parts are impossible to get.
I think so.
So they're
yeah.
like making parts.
Yeah, the guys were very creative.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff they were doing was really brilliant. So I've got to hand it to them. It was a very interesting car show for me because in Cleveland, we don't play by a lot of the traditional rules. Cleveland's kind of work with what you got. Our DGR is like run what you got kind of thing. And this car show was a good example. There was a ton of V8 iron. There was a whole many American V8 muscle
Yep,
cars.
yep.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to drive the Corvette up there.
Right.
It's a JDM show, so I'm like, well, I'll ride the Super Hawk
Right.
up there, so I at least have something Japanese. And I
Right.
get there, and they're like, well, here's a fucking jacked up Dodge Durango
Yep.
with a sound system cruising
You
around.
got it, yeah.
And a bunch of clapped out Camaros and
Yep.
some Dodge Chargers over here.
Yeah, there was a whole row of
89
Chargers.
F-150 with a 7.3.
I would have almost been respectable there.
There was a very
Would've been
mixed
a
bag.
92.
And I got to give these guys credit. Their crew, and I'm going to give them a shout out too, because they're called Sunday Fun Days.
Yep, Sunday
And
Fun Days, right.
they did. They spoke to the property owner who owns the Kmart ahead of time. They cleaned the parking lot before, and then they cleaned the parking lot after.
And they were trying to keep people from being stupid.
They did, and when
really
people
did.
were extremely stupid, they went and shut them down.
Yep.
And then when the police came, they came and they basically got to the cops immediately.
They de-escalated.
They
the
de-escalated the entire situation,
Yep.
and in fact, then they convinced the cops to go over and park their Explorers and put the hoods up.
Yep, and hang
So
on.
the fucking cops put their hoods up.
I thought it was funny though, because like the girl that was parked next to all your cars,
Yeah.
she was showing the cops her LED system, and then she hit the one
red blues?
and it was just red and blue, and the cop was like,
Yeah, he originally was like doing a teeth sucker for a second. He was like, "Yeah, I don't know," but then he's like, "No, that's cool. I like that." And he let her off the hook, and I was like, "Whoo, that's good."
"Yeah, stick to the teal, kids. Stick
Yeah,
to the
stick
teal."
to the purples. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, keep it very Easter basket.
Yeah.
We don't want reds and blues over here. Yeah. We don't want you letting anyone think you might be pulling them over in your Dodge Magnum.
But it's funny because another thing about the new car scene a little bit,
Yeah.
right? So in the old days, you'd have dudes tweaking on motors, and dudes
Yeah.
would be like looking at motors and stuff.
Right.
These dudes were like showing off their LED strips underneath their spoilers.
Yes.
Like, how did you light that? Oh, I did stuck the LED strip under there.
well, I'm not going to tell anybody, but actually, there's a 9-volt battery.
Well, before you would have needed a neon transformer.
Exactly,
Yeah,
a
right.
neon transformer this fucking big. It's a 900 watts, and you can kind of see the glow if
the
it's really
funny-
dark enough.
But like you're looking at some of these cars and you're like, okay, so they have an LED strip on the bottom of their fucking splitter that's an inch and a half off
Yeah.
the ground on the front of their
No,
car.
that's just replaced fortnightly. Like that shit, that's gone.
There was a time when I had the Fiat all dressed up like a Star Trek shuttlecraft, like it said
Oh, really?
NC whatever USS Voyager on the side with a red stripe and the logo,
Badass.
and it had a red LED strip in the grill and a blue LED strip on the sides. and that got ripped off immediately on the first snow.
Well, check this out. So, like, back in the day when I used to travel to car shows with 90 whatever. So when you got down to North Carolina and stuff like that, a lot of their roads are built with like phosphorescent. What do you call them? Minerals and shit, right?
It glistens.
So the original like LED guys would just put black lights under their cars, and it would actually illuminate all the shit in the street, and that
cool.
was kind of cool. Yeah. But then now it just turned into like LEDs, which is
LED strips are cheap.
Yeah, they are.
But what's funny is like when I'm looking at motorcycles online or trying to buy one, if it has an LED on it, I'm out. Like
you're instantly out of the game.
Yeah, because if he did that or she did that, at that point you're like, what else did they fuck her with? Like
That's
you
true.
know the thing is just fucking nozzled at that point.
So they painted it gold somewhere.
Yeah, right. There's probably like a Louis Vuitton seat cover somewhere around that bike somewhere.
The one thing I did want to talk about, you guys will remember not that long ago, we did mention that Harley Davidson had made an arrangement with Benelli to produce the new Benelli, the new Harley Davidson.
The Benelli Davidson.
The Benelli Davidson.
Jang? No, isn't it the Chang Jang?
It is Kang Jang, yeah.
So,
that's correct.
let me ask you this.
Yep.
So since you have the 302 here.
Yes, we do.
So say I wanted to have a Harley on the left side and a Benelli on the right side.
Well,
could you acquire the stickers to make
you
that
could
happen?
you could acquire
You
the stickers.
two-faced son of a bitch.
It is absolutely true. But you will see, I'm going to pull up some photos for you that
Tank looks different.
it's quite different. So that is one thing I would really like to, I think that's the elephant in the room that we got to address is that there's a lot of sheet metal, plastic. There's a lot of badge engineering.
Plastic.
Yeah, there's a lot of badge engineering going on here. There's a lot of stuff that is, if you squint, you can totally see the motorcycle underneath.
Is that a brown seat?
Yes, it is. Thank you, John. It does kind of look brownish. Yeah, it does look brownish.
I don't know why it wasn't the 388.
Is that the new Ducati Monster?
Yeah. Well, what it is the old Benelli 302S.
Instead of the 883, the 388.
The 388 makes perfect sense. Unfortunately, it doesn't have that many cubic centimeters. Yes, it just doesn't have that. So what they've done is they have made a different seat.
Why should that stop somebody like Harley from calling it
I
the
know,
388?
right?
Just call it the 388.
Call it whatever the fuck you want to call it. It is what it is.
I like how they're calling it the Baby Harley.
I know.
It's not a Baby Harley.
Yeah, I think there's too much going on with the Baby Yoda thing right now. That now we're just calling baby on everything.
Well, this is the new Amarici.
It is true. Yeah. And Aramaki.
I say Amarici, you say Aramaki.
We do have an electronic device that could settle this.
I'm not interested in facts.
I'm not interested in your fact. I like calling it what
or
it
proper
is.
pronunciation.
Exactly.
Pronunciation.
Yeah, I might not be pronouncing it correctly. So but what I did want to call attention to on the new Benelli Davidson, or is it better to call it a Harley Benelli? I don't know. Or is it better to just call it
a Harnelli?
A Harnelli. Yeah, I mean, or is it better to call it a Harley Jang or a Chang Davidson or a Chang Benelli Davidson?
That sounds really good.
Yeah, these things all have a lot of marketing appeal. I don't know why we're not writing them down.
The angle on that bike is just not right.
There's a lot of fucking problems with this bike.
I do not like the size of the 338 on the back of it. It's way too big.
And they're trying this flat tracker back end that's reminiscent of the XS 650 kits and everything else. And what you got there is you just end up with a whole lot of fucking air between your passenger perch and the back tire again. There's this completely unnecessary black piece of plastic that's only there to hide the empty space between the Harley Davidson emblazoned gas tank, which has been, as we much expected, angularized.
Why did they cover up that little piece of shock there? Like, I guess you had to mount it, have a mounting point somewhere, but it would have been nice if they could have left that whole.
Yeah, I agree.
shock
There's so many things that on the Benelli actually look really good. and they did a good job with it, and you can buy it, and it's real, and it exists. But when you look at the artist concept of what they said, what they gave the guy in Milwaukee $100 to draw on his weekend, it was probably a Fiverr account. When you look at the artwork that they pulled off, wow, that is another aggressive out. Burning River. When you look at the artist's interpretation, that motorcycle that is represented in the picture
It's nothing like it.
looks nothing like what they've actually put together. And, this picture is like, oh, yeah, that's kind of cool. I'd ride that. But meanwhile, the rider's hiding all the awful bits. And it does kind of look like a Harley flat tracker, maybe? I guess. I don't know. Not impressed with the final result at all.
It looks like a kit car to me.
It does. It does look like you. It looks like you literally went and grabbed a box of plastic parts and glued them to a motorcycle.
Well, and here's the problem.
Nobody knows yet.
Is if they came out with that by itself, you'd be like, that's okay.
I can tell you the Benelli's $42.99 though.
Right.
Right.
But that's the thing. So unfortunately, the Benelli exists.
Right. Exactly.
And it's way better looking.
It is. It actually is. Well, it's not pretending to be something that it's not.
Right.
So the Benelli is looking like a lightweight sport bike.
Right.
The Benelli is not hiding the trellis frame. The Benelli is not hiding the monoshock. The Benelli's showing it all off.
My question is this. Would you rather see them do something like this, to buy something off the shelf, rebadge it in there?
And that's what it is, yeah.
Or to go back and do something like the Buell Blast, where you take something that's actually proprietary and cut it in half and then push it out there and say, here's a small displacement motorcycle.
And that's a really, really good point, because if you look at the Buell Blast, which was one half of a Sportster motor, and it didn't work great. I mean, some people think it's okay. I have worked on them. They're a dog's breakfast. I mean, the carburetor's off of a Kimco Exciting. The single cylinder itself, it didn't make what I thought was anything resembling fun power.
2 cylinders didn't make a lot of fun power. Half of that didn't do any
and half
better.
of it didn't do it.
Aesthetically, it was a fucking dog turd.
It's a ugly fucking bike.
Yeah.
I mean, it had the same. I mean, it has the same thing that early Zeros had, where it was like, does it look like a motorcycle? No, it looks like a Buell Blast.
Right.
And what does a Buell Blast look like? It looks like a Buell Blast.
So this was a better move than them trying to build something themselves.
It is, but at the same time, it's like, what kind of premium are they going to charge to call it a Harley?
Right.
Why would you just not buy the Benelli?
Well, that's always been the case, and that's a really, really good discussion.
Is there any way possible that this was going to come in cheaper than a Benelli? It can't.
No, there's no way.
It cannot.
Right. No. And just like with the Street 500 and the Street 750, they're starting with the exact same rhetoric. The same rhetoric is, no, we're not actually building this for the American market.
Yeah, right.
We're building this for the Asian market or the European market. We're not ever actually going to bring this to America.
Well, after the pandemic, like, what is the American market now? Because
all I know is they killed the Bronx.
Yeah, right. So they might need to redefine what the American market is.
Yeah.
They're doing anything they can to keep from getting bought out. I think.
They're right now. It's a case.
It's not going to work.
Well, today right now is. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. Harley Davidson's numbers are up because everybody's numbers are up. You can't buy a fucking Honda. You can't buy a monkey bike. You can't buy bikes at Honda dealers because they're fucking out of bikes. We're killing ourselves to keep our line representing well here and make ourselves look like we're
I'm amazed
fat and sassy.
Every week when we come to do the podcast, how many bikes are gone and how many are back or new?
We're between 10 and 25 bikes per week.
Wow.
And it's crazy to run those numbers.
How different is that from the last couple of years?
It's
at this point.
It's over 100% better.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we're literally running right now 100%, literally 100% higher numbers than we were last year.
And how about that to 2008?
Oh, well, 2008 was that was the kooky year. So 2008 was insane. I'm going to say it was different because gas was $5 a gallon and there was a panic mode. There were people coming in buying gas.
So everybody was buying the low CC, high mileage. Now
it was right. So
is it more just like what the cost is?
Yeah. In 2008, we sold 300 buddy scooters. We sold 300 bikes that had a $2,700 price point. Well, now we're selling 150 bikes that have a $6,000 price point.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
So that's different.
How are the zeros going?
They're doing very well, and in fact, that's a big problem that we're having. Is Zero had launched a discount campaign, but they didn't think to look and see what their actual inventory reserves were before they did it.
Oh. So it just blew it out.
So there's that whole thing of like supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
So, supply and demand equals cost. Well, what happens is when you have a shit ton of demand and you have no supply,
Right.
you do not need to discount at all.
Right.
You can in fact, some people in California charge more. They charge a premium.
Well, look at the Corvettes.
Exactly.
The new Corvettes that came out. Nobody's paid less than $20,000 over retail just to get one.
Great example.
Yeah.
So a great example for us sitting here in the room with us is right behind Chris is a Zero SRS. That's a $21,000 motorcycle. But because of a couple of things. Here's the first thing is that bike is technically a demo unit. Even though due to coronavirus, we've done 0 demo rides.
Right.
And that bike has the original 5 miles that were on it when it came out of the crate. That bike gets $1,250 off. But wait, there's more. Because Zero decided to do a cash for carbon program that we talked about in a previous podcast where you bring in any shit box and we'll give you $1,500 more than it's worth. Well, now they took the shit box out of the equation. So now you don't need to bring in anything. If you buy an SRS or an SRF, the Street Fighter, you automatically get $1,500 off. So now you get $1,500 off plus $1,250. So now you're at $2,750.
Oh.
Just for having a pulse and saying, I'd like to buy that motorcycle. But then once you buy that motorcycle, you get 10% off in a federal tax credit. So now you pay 20 grand on that bike, you're getting 2,000 off on that. So now you're at 4,750. Whoa.
Yeah, that's a lot
That's
of money.
got to get your attention because now the SRS, which is the brand new cutting edge electric motorcycle in the world, is now costing less than last year's or 2 years ago's SR product.
And for an equivalent gas bike,
Yeah.
you're talking what, $3,000 or $4,000 more.
Exactly.
But
So
with no maintenance,
Right, no
What would
maintenance.
you put that up against? Like a BMW?
Well, it's a weird thing because this is where everyone gets into a fucking battle. One, it has 140 foot-pounds of torque. So there aren't too many fucking motorcycles out there on the planet that have that much torque.
like that's Ducati, like multi-strada.
You can name whatever you want to
fucking thing.
name
It's
because
like-
very few motorcycles on planet
Right.
Earth have 140 foot-pounds of
Right,
torque. It goes from 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, which also puts it into a group of very, very, very few motorcycles on planet Earth. But its top speed is only 126 miles per hour,
limited
Only.
by the computer.
governed by the decision of the manufacturer.
But there's
to make
got to be hacks available.
We're not going to talk about that.
Okay, that doesn't exist.
How many times have you gone over 128 miles an hour at this table?
Well, the point is, I'm very happy the motherfuckers
You
got
have,
governed.
but you have.
Yeah, but so have I. But my point being, every time I've ever done 176 miles an hour or 196 miles an hour, I've always done the same thing, which is like, okay,
Yeah. Woo.
what the fuck was I doing?
Yep.
You know?
It's like a 2-mile stretch of a highway that you can see all the way down.
And it's always
like,
3 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and that's
Yeah.
fine, and I've done it. But the point being, very rarely do I ever need to go over 125.
And the
for any
older I
practical
get, the less
applications.
fast I need to go.
Yeah, and it's true. And I ride these bikes, and I ride them at maximum chat. I ride them at full pace, and they're perfect, and they're dead smooth, and they're silent, and they're great at 125
I'll do
miles an hour.
100, no problem. I'll take it up to maybe 110, 120. I have no interest in doing anything
I'm
more
with
than
you
that.
now.
That is just
And on
like-
these bikes, you're going 125, and you have no fucking idea you're going 125. So I'm
That's-
kind of glad they're limited because,
that's insane.
yeah, it is enough.
Well, that's the thing. I'm sure it takes a while to get used to even trying to figure out what legal speed is. without-
Oh, it's very deceptive.
yeah, because
it's
there's no
very
noise,
fucking
there's no
deceptive.
nothing. It's smooth.
Most of the time, I look down and I'm like, well, that's 110 miles an hour.
So
that's-
yeah.
my question is, what kind of is there a cruise control or
Yeah,
anything?
there's cruise control.
I mean, that's perfect. I mean, that
Yeah.
bike should be able to have like perfect meticulous. It'll keep you exactly at whatever speed you
Absolutely
want it
does.
to.
It absolutely does. And you can accelerate with the cruise control, and it'll return back to your set speed and
But
stuff.
it's
yeah.
amazing when you
Yeah.
at Mid Ohio last or 2 year, whenever we were there
Yeah.
last, when you had the 1.0 there and you let us ride it.
You're
That was the
making me
first
sad.
time I spent quite a bit of time on a 0.
on the FX. Yeah.
and it was really hard. I remember like going like, wow, I'm really going as slow as I can possibly go, and it was like 40.
Yeah.
Like it's like since there's no noise, you have no concept of how fast you're going until you blow past a mini bike and you're like, "Fuck, I'm
flying." Yeah,
yeah.
It is when you take the clatter out of the situation, the bike. It's remarkable how fast you can
My
go.
favorite thing about that at Mid Ohio was just crawling through the trails at like half a mile an hour, and all of a sudden getting to a straight and just fistful throttle,
And how
back
many-
end spinning.
And how many smiles? Like
That was
every
fantastic.
time you hit the throttle,
Yep.
it was just a constant. Like you're just like, like the whole time.
It's like you're getting away with something.
Yeah, like you told us 1,000 times how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
But until you do it,
Right.
and it's like literally, Nick, did you not go?
every single
Every
time.
single
Every time.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
That's why when you guys are like, "Can I take the zero?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can take the zero." Yeah, just go ahead, take it. To the, Chris,
I just like the crowd reaction.
yeah.
I just like it when you're
I loved watching Chris.
You're-
Chris took that zero out, and I was shit faced. I'm going to driving around, but Chris is right in front of us, and Chris ate shit because Chris did what we all do. Chris is like, "I'm just gonna gas it and see what happens."
Yeah.
And Chris gassed it, and the bike just screwed into the ground, right? Because you can't hook up in mud.
you do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around.
That bike literally, and he just was laughing the whole time. He looked up and he looks back at the bike and he's like, "I just crashed this." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's in mud. Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
And he was fine. But it goes from -1 miles per hour somehow. I don't know how it does it, but it's the only bike I've ever ridden that can go slower than a drunk can walk.
Yeah.
Without putting your feet down.
Yep.
And it's perfectly placed. And then all of a sudden you can go to light speed warp factor 6 without even putting your cigarette out.
And there's a tiny whine,
Yeah.
like a little,
Yeah.
and when they cancel, it actually adds to your smiles.
Of course.
Like when you hear that, you're like, you're about to have more.
When you
fun
do it on
than
the
you
street,
thought.
we call it the Chewbacca noise because it goes.
And-
The Chewbacca noise, like,
and it's not
"Oh."
and it's not fake and it's not
No.
engineered. It's
No.
just the primary
sound of
the secondary drive. Or,
Yeah.
well, there's only
No.
one.
They
There's no
didn't-
primary. It's just the belt drive.
Yeah, they didn't have a whole department trying to figure out the pleasurable audible tone.
I'm
of
sorry.
a gear whine.
It's
Put a
just
vibrator
it's just
in
the
the
sign
seat.
that a
Does it
cog
have-
belt makes.
The Zero has a haptic heartbeat. No, fuck
No.
you. It does
Yeah,
not
no,
have a
yeah,
haptic heartbeat.
They didn't buy 120 power drills and listen to all of them and go, "Oh, that one was
That's
pleasing.
the one that sounds good. Yeah.
What's that from? It's Harbor Freight.
We should
oh,
we should
okay.
back cut the gears to match that sound. No, Zero went. We would like the maximum torque.
Torque, yeah.
And what can we do to make it perform best? All right, what is it going to sound like? It's going to sound like what it is,
Yeah.
motherfucker.
We prefer to make no sound, but if it somehow
Exactly.
makes some sort of sound, we won't be too upset.
So wait, what you're saying is we have to add 128 parts to make it sound like a Harley?
Right.
No. Let's
Let's
not
rotate the
do
motor
that.
90 degrees.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
I think Zero's mentality was like, can we possibly engineer the least number of fail points?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
That's because these guys were from NASA.
Yeah. Can we just have it be osmosis powered?
Right. Yeah. I tell people when you ride it, it does become telepathic.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it. I know Steve is. I've seen you riding it. Like Steve rides that bike like it's pants.
Right. Well, I mean, you got what 100? How many? You maximized your mileage. You have to know the bike really well to do that.
The most I've gotten was 120.
Jeez.
That's
And that's
a lot.
120 out of a 7 point. Well, you don't have a 6.2. You got a
That was
6.5.
6.5.
So out of a 6.5, he's got 120 miles.
And what should it get usually?
90
90. So
by a skilled operator.
right.
Yeah. So it
But
should
usually
get.
it gets 50. I mean, you have to really work.
Well,
to
look,
get
it gets 50 because the 50 is the fun 50.
Yeah, it's a fun 50
Yeah.
too.
When I ride one of these things and I'm riding it, I'm going to be lucky to get 30. But I know where my house is, so
But
it's
you
okay.
know what?
Yeah.
So at Mid Ohio, that bike. So everybody's like, "Oh, electric bikes, they're die, whatever."
yeah.
You didn't charge the bike we rode
No,
at all, right?
not one time.
And we all rode it.
Everybody rode the shit out of that
a
bike.
lot.
Yeah, it got ridden every day of a 4-day weekend.
And when we got 25 or 30 feet away from the RV,
Yeah.
it wasn't ridden lightly.
No, it was never ridden lightly.
No.
Everybody I gave the keys to was just like, okay, and then you could hear it.
Yeah,
And you're like,
right.
as soon as they got 50 feet away from the
yeah.
RV,
As soon as we were out of earshot,
Exactly.
which on this
See, but
bike is like 20
I
feet.
think riding it like that though, at some point,
yeah,
makes the battery last longer.
Yeah, because-
you hit it,
Yeah.
and then
Regen.
and as soon as you're off, I
Yeah.
mean, you come right off the
Tons of
throttle,
regen.
It's regen.
tons of
Yeah,
regen.
you're right.
So
you're
not
right.
that you're
When I
regenning
put
as
the
much
bike-
as you use, but there's something that
But
there's something
seriously,
that's not logical about getting high mileage on it.
Yeah.
To me, because it seems like if it's stop and go,
Yeah.
it's better
It is way better
than if you just if you had a constant speed. It
The worst thing for that bike is wind resistance.
Right.
The best thing for that bike is a city traffic.
Low
Like,
speed.
Well, I've
stop
noticed
and
the
go
same
is-
thing with like a Toyota Prius. It's like it's stop and go. You can get like 55, 60 miles per gallon, but on the highway, it's like 25, 30.
how long have you, Chris? You've been driving Priuses for a while too, right?
Mrs. Smith has an
Yeah.
05,
Right. 05. Shit.
193,000.
Wow.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
you want
that's
that car when you sell it.
yeah. I
You
mean,
know what?
I know, I miss-
I'm going to have to also because I bought another one,
Oh, you
the
did?
2012. Yes.
yeah. So I mean,
miss-
like you think about the number of miles you've accumulated using electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a totally different jam than
So
normal.
So we're talking about Chris Smith.
And after 193,000 miles, I think she's used like 16 gallons of gas.
dude, all I know is that a bunch of years ago, when my daughter was born, my parent-in-laws, whatever you call them, in-laws or whatever,
Yeah.
they were like, you need a solid, reliable car
Right.
for our daughter. Go buy a car.
Right.
So I bought a Prius V, right? But I leased it. I've never leased anything in my life before, but it was the only thing I could do because I couldn't afford to buy a car.
Right.
It lasted 6 months before I had to park the car for a year because I had to use
your mileage.
2 years worth of miles
burned up the
in
mileage.
6 months.
Oh.
But I loved that car until I
Yeah.
couldn't drive it anymore.
That's,
So do you have
that's
any
harsh.
jokes for us, Chris?
Oh, I got one.
Well,
He's got a good one.
I got a good one.
you got a good
Oh,
one.
here we go. Here we go. We'll let Steve warm it up. Warm up the mic.
Warm up the mic.
Just to get Chris going. What is 12 inches long and stiff in the morning? SIDS.
Oh,
That's so bad.
That's a rough one.
that's really small. Yeah. That's very small. Oh, that's harsh.
Wah, wah, wah.
Oh man.
All right, Mr. Smith is looking. What do we got?
Who's got glasses? Let me,
I do.
let me.
We need
Here,
some
use
cheaters.
Want you to buy folks?
Old
You want-
man Chris
Here, take these. These are good.
Chris Smith needs some cheaters.
Yeah.
He's cheating.
I know this one pretty well, but this one's called Neil Armstrong. So some years ago, they were celebrating Neil Armstrong's landing on the moon. It was the 30th anniversary, and they said, "Mr. Armstrong."
By the way, that was fake.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
All right.
I have photographic evidence.
The flag, man, the flag. So moving along, they said, Mr. Armstrong, it's amazing the feat you did and how you went down historically. Especially that wonderful quote, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Neil Armstrong says, I never said that. What are you talking about? Everybody knows you said that. It was all over the news, on television, it's recorded, it's taught in schools. He says, that may be, but I never said it. Well, what did you say? I said, one small step for man, one giant leap for Manny Klein. Really? Yeah. Well, where did that come from? Neil Armstrong says, well, when I was growing up in Brooklyn, our family lived next door to the Kleins, Manny Klein and his wife. The walls were very thin, and I used to hear Manny begging all the time that his wife give him oral sex. And she would say, Manny, when a man walks on the moon.
Congratulations.
Oh, that's fantastic. I
So
love
well.
that. That's good. If nobody else has anything else.
As a follow-up to that,
Yeah.
I was reading that those guys were talking to Neil Armstrong and what to say when he stepped out
Right.
to the moon.
Yeah.
And they wanted him to say, he said, if I had any balls, I would have said, what the hell is that? And cut my mic off.
Cut your mic off. Exactly. It feels squishy.
So that I might be dating myself, but
Right.
does everybody know who Christy McCullough is?
Yeah.
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 So how did they knew she had dandruff. Do you know how? They found her head and shoulders washed up on the beach.
All those jokes that happened during the challenge, like it was. What does NASA stand for? Need another 7 astronauts. Yeah. What was the last thing that went through Sally Ride's mind before the crash? A 14-inch piece of stainless steel.
Yeah, right.
You know, like all those different. You know, there's just horrible jokes that were floated around. Just
So do I
terrible.
have that wrong then? So
No,
Who
it
got
said,
killed?
why didn't
Who got killed in the NASA? Who was the woman who got killed?
Well,
in the
Sally
truck?
Ride and Chrissy McCullough.
Oh, both of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the joke was,
Yeah.
the joke originally was, why didn't she take a shower before she got on the shuttle?
Right.
Because she was going to wash up on the
She was going to wash up on the beach.
she was going to use her.
She was going to wash up on the
That was
beach
the original
anyway.
joke.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think it came out 30 seconds after it blew up.
It did. I mean, they were pretty terrible. So here's an interesting thing. We're gonna circle back to John's mispronunciation of Aramaki.
Okay. Shit. Fuck. I didn't know that was going to stick in your craw, but okay.
I thought we were done with the podcast.
I know, but I did want to throw this up because it is fucking interesting as shit. So we all know Piaggio. Piaggio is an aviation company that happens to build scooters, and they build little trucks and all kinds of crazy
Do you mean
shit. too.
Piaggio?
You mean Faggio?
Piggy audio.
Yeah, if you play Grand Theft Auto, the Faggio, right?
Yeah, right.
So
Is that what it is?
yeah. If you steal a scooter in Grand Theft Auto, it's called a Faggio.
Yeah.
I'm not making that shit up. That is not me hating on anybody.
Wow.
That's the game fucking company. That's bullshit, and I think that all of you need to protest and make it
I'm
fabulous.
writing into EA.
Rockstar.
EA Games or Rockstar, right?
You saw the
Rockstar.
little troll dolls where the little button that you make them talk is actually down between their legs, and then my wife was disgusted by that.
Dude.
So it was like these little troll dolls, and it was
Okay.
like
Yeah.
and they're supposed to have like a little button where you push it, and it's like I love you. But actually, they accidentally, like some engineer engineered the button a little too low south of the border, and it's
Right.
like- and you push it, and she's like,
Have you seen the LOL doll shit?
no,
So-
the ones that change color, like
Dude.
have different clothes on.
Dude,
It's like
my
they look
daughter,
like a hooker.
my daughter that's 6, I bought her a couple of LOL dolls because that's what she wanted, right?
Okay.
And so, as every doll that any kid has ever owned, they're naked after like 5 minutes.
Well, of course. Yeah, it's just what dolls
So
do.
she
yeah.
threw them in a fucking bucket of water to swim, and all of a sudden, lingerie showed up.
Yes.
All these dolls have lingerie and shit on. them.
Fish
So they're
nets,
naked until they
G-string.
get wet.
Yeah, and when they get wet, lingerie, and I'm talking like thigh-high
Tattoos.
things with
Some of
like
them have
things, tattoos and stuff. It's weird. I'm like, who would do that?
Why? Wow. Okay. Yeah. All right.
All right.
I tell you who did it.
So anyway,
George Soros.
Oh my God.
so back to Aramaki.
You sure it wasn't
podcast.
Obama? I think it was Obama that did it.
So
dude. That-
weird. That is so weird. I don't want to get in on the Wall Dolls thing.
No,
We'll
it's
explore
just-
that later.
Moving along.
So what do you have to
Aramaki-
say? What do you have to say about these Aramakis?
Right. Yeah, there you go. All of a sudden, yeah, he figured that out, didn't he? So Aramaki, it turns out Aramaki, the company that built the bikes that Harley Davidson put their badges on, it is in fact an airplane manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of fucking cool. I don't get
Wasn't
me.
Piaggio an airplane manufacturer?
Still is.
First too? Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there still is. I mean, Piaggio Aviation builds cutting edge
They
business.
did the twin engine water plane that everybody knows.
Yeah, well, and they're also
Except you.
built. Yeah, I mean, there's.
It would have been cooler if they put a Continental like 0360 in it or something.
For anybody who has not seen a picture of what a Piaggio airplane looks like, they look like what you would expect a Piaggio airplane to look like. They look like sex. This is totally an Italian airplane. This is like saying,
It's like a catfish.
I like the Honda Jet better though.
well, that's true. The Honda Jet's cool, but this is Piaggio.
sure.
Piaggio Aviation is basically saying, hey, we can make it sexy too.
Hey, you have 2 sets of wings.
Right.
We have 3.
We have 3. Hey, you ever heard of a canard? We know all about canard,
But
right?
not only canard,
Yeah.
we put normal wings on it too.
Too, right? We'll just fucking have wings everywhere. Yeah. You see our tail section, you'll think, Lear, you're wrong. No,
Yes,
you're
look
wrong.
at my tail section.
Right. Look at my tail section.
We have jets, we have propellers, we have anything you want.
Anything
Yeah.
you want.
We have one jet and one propeller.
Right.
Our planes
They
run
got
on
the props in the
champagne,
back.
and they have to be from fucking the Champagne Hills of France.
8 turning, 4 burning, whatever. I don't care what B-36 you run or whatever. These things are beautiful. They're just beautiful jets and are beautiful planes, right? Because they're all turboprops, right?
Except for that one.
Though they do sometimes get upside down. Well, that one has. I mean, but that
Taking
one's
a nap.
right. That one's taking a nap. They're so beautiful when they're sleeping. Yep. But yeah, they did. So there is the P. Just to let you know, though, that they are in it for the money too, because you'll notice there's no pilot in that Piaggio. Ooh.
And it's gray.
It's gray.
And there's guns.
It's gray and there's no pilot. That's not a good
Got
sign.
3 pitot tubes. So.
That's not a good sign. Oh, that's not a good sign. But it is that kind of a thing. And you said you were talking about
That's the one.
that's the one we all know about, the P136. The P136.
That's a jet.
So it's a P series.
That one is, yeah. Yeah, that one is. It's a P series, yeah. Hey, I got a P135. No, I got a P136. It's cooler. Yeah. So, I mean, that is Piaggio's history, but I didn't know
Did that
about...
come with the free scooter?
It should, right? I mean, that only makes sense, for fuck's sake. But I didn't know about Aramaki at all. I had no idea. I mean, the name obviously says Aramaki. It's got the word air in it. But it does turn out that, yeah, it's kind of cool. I had no idea that when Harley Davidson was slapping their badges on this hastily assembled Italian product, that it was in fact from another aviation manufacturer. That's kind of badass. That's cool. So I thought you'd like that.
Well, they're not selling airplanes right now, so they might.
Well, you know, there's a long history of European companies building scooters after they got done building warplanes. Messerschmitt, Messerschmitt did a good number with that. That was one that jumps immediately to mind. Mitsubishi.
Yep.
And Fuji Heavy with their rabbits and all that stuff, and like all that cool stuff. Mitsubishi had the Silver Pigeons and some other motorcycles. Kind of cool.
Why is scooters the go-to thing when they're not allowed to make airplanes anymore?
Because I think that they've got the small wheels hanging around.
And moving. Well, no.
So landing gear.
I watched a video about the Vespa factory.
Enrico Piaggio.
And they were talking about how aviation had led itself to the design of the Vespa, including the front wheel, because that was actually
it's a landing gear. Yeah, it's landing gear. Yeah, the single-sided swing arm on the front end is landing gear. Yeah, and the little 98cc motor was an APU motor, auxiliary power unit, that was used to start the bigger motors and the bombers and whatnot. Right. Yeah, and so I mean that's kind of an interesting jam when you think about it. And that Aramaki thing that just lends into that. Now Aramaki went out of business, totally ceased operations 9 seconds after they signed a contract with Harley Davidson. As most companies do.
Right,
it's just what happens. So you'll have that. So that's it. Got anything else?
I do have a question for Mr. Smith.
Yep.
No.
So do the Janus guys still take your calls, or do they not appreciate it?
So I called Grant to see if he got your links, which I knew that you sent it to him, but I just want to make sure he got it. And he said, A, thanks very much. B, Richard was very happy to have been on the show.
Oh, that's cool.
C, Grant had listened to about a third of it and then couldn't make his way through the rest of it. Fell asleep or something. I don't know what the fuck happened, but no, he said he didn't get around to finish.
But he took your call.
He had what we call a stunning moment of clarity.
Excellent.
And if we do a DGR, I keep kicking in, hey, you got to get us a bike for the DGR. So they may end up doing that. So we'll see what we can squeeze out.
And we do know that this year, September 27th, DGR is Choose Your Own Adventure. You can register at gentleman'sride.com. We do strongly
Distinguished
recommend.
Gentleman's Ride. That's what DGR stands for.
Distinguished
for anybody who's
Gentleman's
heard
Ride.
it before.
Disgruntled.
And what is the point of the DGR?
Well, of course, the point of the DGR is to raise attention for the November Foundation, which is what we call the Movember Foundation, not shaving your mustache, for men's health, suicide awareness and prevention, prostate cancer research, and among many other excellent charities that gentleman'sride.com has gotten themselves involved in these many years. Now, due to coronavirus and them having a very proactive stance on not spreading the goddamn disease, they've decided to no longer have a fundamental element of the ride being the joining and the gathering of. So what they're saying is it is literally ride together apart.
Yep.
So it's not as dumb as it sounds. It means get registered.
You can ride together, but don't start together and end together.
It's just
even when we did the big long one, right?
Right.
We got together.
Yep.
We weren't humping each other. When we got to the place, everybody stayed just good distance apart.
Right.
I don't believe that for 1 minute.
There was a little sex, but it was just on the side. But I'm just saying,
because I know the BMW people fucked me.
I love the phrase. Their term of art is for this year is ride solo together, right? Yeah. So it's ride solo together, and so yes, contribute to the cause. help let your friends know you're doing it. They can still sponsor you. They can still donate money to the charity. That's great. They're still doing all the promos and the giveaways and all the cool stuff that they've done. This group has raised $25 million since 2012. In 2020 in America, they raised $750,000. That's a really fucking cool thing.
Yep.
30,000 people have been involved in this fucking thing since the get-go. We've got a group registered in Cleveland, of course, as we have for many years. What they're doing, though, is they're saying, look, September 27th is the day. How you do it is entirely up to you.
Right.
You do you. You want to get weird? You want to wear a T-Rex costume? You fucking do it. But make sure you do it dapper. And that's what September 27th is all about. It's about going out and riding. You find a group of friends. You want to ride as a small group, a clique, what do they call a pod of people you're safe with, a group of like-minded individuals, people who will hold your hand while you're infirmed, whatever it might be. Just fucking go out and do it and ride it. And I'm going to dress up. I'm going to dress up as fuck. I'm going to ride a cool bike. I got 2 or 3 bikes I might ride that day. The difference between previous year's DGRs and this DGR is, one, I'm not hurting you fucking cats. The Dennis Kucinich next to the statue?
Yeah, every time I see that picture, I'm like,
that guy does look a lot like
you guys
Dennis
ran into Dennis Kucinich in
Italy. Yeah, exactly. In Mandela Delario, I ran into Dennis Kucinich. But anywho, I'm going to ride 4 fucking bikes this year, bitches.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to go out and be dapper all day long. There may be 2 or 3 costume changes.
Yep.
Yeah.
As it should.
Because I'm going to ride everywhere. I'm going to ride that day. So Sunday, the 27th of September, I'm going to be distinguished as a motherfucker all day long.
Do you think
I'm already registered.
Do you think we can talk to Stefan about possibly showing up for some to-go
Libations?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe for that day?
There might have to be a
Pleading?
Well, the other thing is this. I mean, we're all sitting here at a table. So we've already fucking COVIDed each other if we're going to COVID each other.
Plus all the sex.
Yeah, well, you can talk to Steve about that. But,
no mouth stuff.
But so you could have, there's no reason why we all couldn't meet up somewhere.
Right.
Suck down a couple barley pops, decide what we're going to do.
Right.
Fuck off, go somewhere.
Right.
Go through some ubiquitous drive-through or takeout or whatever.
Sure.
Do whatever. Get some grubs. Get some
I'm
beers.
going to predict that we won't starve.
Nope.
Yeah.
And we won't die of thirst.
But we've been doing that every single week since it started.
Yeah, right.
Yep, that's true.
You guys have. I got to run the fucking shop.
No, yeah.
I've been sitting here watching you guys gather.
We try every time. We're like, let's wait till Sunday so
Right.
Phil can come, and then we
Right.
talk to you, and you're like, I'm not doing that.
I can't do it, dude.
So,
Yeah, right.
so the DGR is going to be the same thing, but Phil might show up.
No, it's Sunday. I can go. I'm on. It's
Sunday.
game on, motherfuckers. I'm on. And in fact, I hope to have a small bike ride, and I hope to have a big bike ride as well.
At the same day.
Right. In the same goddamn day. Right. And what will really probably happen is we'll probably ride somewhere cool and then sit there and drink too much. And,
Yeah, that's
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So next week, some of us at this podcast
Right.
are going to New York with Steve, and we're going to go and be stupid in New York.
Right.
So
Yeah.
should we call in and do a podcast?
Yeah, I think we should. Probably a good idea.
Yeah?
Yeah, do a remote cast from the beautiful lakeside dwelling of Speculator, New York.
Depending on how many people are there, we might record it there. And
Speculator.
you
I
guys.
could chime in. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's it. Oh my God, I just saw a
Everybody could take
picture.
a laptop and Zoomcast from there. If we
I just saw a picture of Lol Dolls.
You're
That is
right.
fucking weird, man.
Right? It's crazy.
No, that's really weird. That looks like fucking J-Lo with no clothes on. It's very strange.
Okay, now I'm intrigued.
No, it's really ugly, man. You don't want any part of
You
that.
don't want any
It's
part
really
of
not
that.
good. No, I don't think, well, what can I say? I grew up with G.I. Joe.
If you're allowed.
God.
Yeah.
And they had no wieners.
No, they had no wieners. No, that was it.
Okay,
Wall
but you see
dolls
that
have
one? You
wieners.
see that one there that has that's the wet one that has the tattoos on the legs and the.
yeah.
Oh, okay. So
That-
that's what's happened. That's what happens when you get it wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Oh, geez.
When it
Okay.
gets moist, things happen.
Is that cold and wet or just wet?
I think it's just wet.
Okay, that's kind of weird. All right, it's like fucking Gremlins, but naughty. All right, I'm
I
out.
like to shoot those things.
Yeah, that's not cool. Yeah, that's really weird, man. Yeah, that's kind of strange.
All right, last thing before we go.
Yeah.
What's the best deal at Cleveland Moto right now?
The door kicker. What's the door kicker deal right now? I'm going to tell you that if you called me today, tomorrow, or whenever this airs, you could almost make me an offer on the 2014 Versus that has 1,700 original miles on it and is factory showroom new.
What is the going price right now?
It would be like under $4,000.
Damn.
I know. For a brand new 2014 motorcycle, but I mean, it's got 1,700 miles. It has never been outside of the past 2 years, 3 years.
For
it has been in this heated
brand
building.
new.
What's that? Brand new 2014 Versus. I mean, it's 1,700
So it's
miles.
the good looking one. It's not
It's the
one.
Punisher headlight.
Yeah,
it's the
it's
Punisher
not,
headlight is the good looking one, and it is perfect in every way. But
650 or
it's a 650. It's in my window. It's got the ABS. It's the LT. It's all the good shit.
Probably 145 mile an hour top speed. It's a
It's
fast
not
bike.
it's a good bike. It's a good
I
bike.
bet you it's up there.
I don't
bet
think
you
it's up there.
I do.
Well, we're gonna find out.
I get you because the Ninja will do 155, 160. The 650.
Really?
So they probably down tuned it enough.
Yeah, they probably did,
I'm
yeah.
telling you, 135,
I
140.
doubt the gearing is as high as on the Ninja. So
Yeah.
that's probably.
No, I bet you it's the
Top speed 125 estimated. Originally sold for $82.99, so I'm going to sell it for less than half of that.
Yep.
So if somebody did want to call the shop and was just like, give me the most motorcycle for the least amount of money I could
That's
do,
it.
I'd say that's probably it. I mean, I'll give you a hell of a deal on the V-Star 650, but realistically, that Ninja for under $4K, that's a lot of motorcycle, and it's a lot of virtually new motorcycle.
I was about to say, like,
Yeah.
you can find that motorcycle for that price
Yeah.
on a lot of different places.
Yeah, but it
But
won't have no miles.
38,000 miles.
Right.
And it's been like ball dunked
Yeah,
by
right.
whoever owned it.
And this
for
bike
years.
this bike was one owner before me.
Yeah.
And when I got the bike, it had 1,200 miles on it. I put probably another 400 miles on it.
And
500
the
miles on it.
motors in those bikes and the swing arms and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a guy on Adventure Rider
Mm-hmm.
who abuses the fuck out of them, and he makes them. He calls them gravel runners, and he does
Wow.
modifications, whatever.
Yeah.
But the reason he uses that bike is because the motor is unkillable.
It's an unkillable motor, and it's also a delightful motor. I mean, we were talking about it earlier, but that's a fucking fun bike to ride.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
every time I ride it, I get a fucking giggle on my face. It's a straight up fun bike. I mean, there's no shame in it.
I can also say that when you're on the back of an 850, you get a boner. But besides that,
Oh wait, somebody fucked my website up. But I would also say I've got.
DRZ.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna fire Renee, or at least fire her up. But I got a DRZ 400 that's got 2,000 miles on it, and it's got the gold rims. It's a 2015.
Supermoto?
Yeah, Supermo. And that's another one that this thing for some strange reason has a salvage title. When I bought it, it had a salvage title, and I don't know how the hell it ended up with a salvage title.
That's
We joke all the time. We're like, one scratch on the frame could be a salvage title to some insurance companies.
It could have been stolen and recovered.
Right. That's another thing
And
too.
never really damaged.
Yeah. And it's got $2,000, 2,000 miles on it. It runs like a rape date. It is a good motorcycle, and that's another one that would probably go for like $3,000.
so if you're going to the tail of the dragon, that's the bike.
That's the bike to have.
Yeah.
That is seriously, that's about as much stupid fun as you can have
Yep.
in a motorcycle. DRZ SM, DRZ 400 SM is a goofy fun bike.
You can throw it down the road.
Yeah.
And not hurt anything.
No, it's really, and it's a good parking lot shenanigans bike too. I have done wheelie, stoppy on that bike many times, and it's totally forgiving. Like you can get away with it.
And if you do need parts for it, Google Suzuki Parts House.
Oh, excellent.
They have parts for my dumb bikes. They definitely have.
Well, they got parts for
Okay, did they pay you to say that?
that one. They did, yes.
Yeah. Oh, I will tell you a tech tip about the Suzuki DRZs.
Yes.
So if your bike is stuck in kilometers mode, it happens.
Yeah.
On the right-hand side is the select button, and you press and hold the select button really, really, really hard for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It'll switch from kilometer mode to miles per hour mode until it doesn't. And then when that no longer happens, you have to then take the speedometer apart and replace the little thing or you can super glue the board back up a little firmer, because what happens is people mash on that select button harder than they need to, because it's one of those things you got to hold it for 5 seconds. So instead of like lightly pressing it for 5 seconds, just enough to make the contact, they fucking gorilla monsoon that son of a bitch all the way into like the front fork stanchions. So what you can do is you can then take it apart and super glue it back up to where it should be, and then like maybe put like a Hello Kitty next to the select button to like chill them the fuck out.
It needs the like gentle I love this girl sex compared to the long boning just like
I also thought maybe take the rubber cap off and just put a hypodermic needle syringe on there, like a needle, so you'd be like, you'd only want to push it so hard.
I was going to say, if you can't push it with your finger, use a pen, stab it with a pen or something.
Well, this thing is unfucking stabbable. This thing has been stuck in kilometres since I've gotten it. So the day I bought it, it was stuck in kilometres. As you can see, it has 3,300 kilometres on it right now. And my firearms instructor way back in the days, Cooper School of Colt 45 control, he used to say, I will take that trigger off and I'll replace it with a razor blade if you don't learn trigger control. And I was like, okay, single action guy. And I did. I learned trigger control. And that is the opposite. Whoever has had this thing knows the difference between jam and jelly. Because they have jellied the shit out of that thing. Yeah.
There is a big difference between double action and single action.
Yeah, well, I mean, believe me, it's gun fag podcast. Here we go.
The worst gun I owned was a semi-automatic double action all the time.
That was horrible. By the way, the fact that they wanted you to carry that to defend yourself or me,
ridiculous.
There's no way if this came down to a situation and somebody was holding me hostage and John's standing there with that gun, I'd be like, John, don't take the shot. Don't take the shot.
Yeah,
it was the worst trigger I'd ever felt in any gun in my life.
So double action means when you pull the trigger, it cocks the hammer. It was a Smith & Wesson,
but it's for law enforcement. It's double action only.
Yeah. So a single action, you should just be able to go bang, bang,
2 pounds, 3 pounds trigger pull, no problem. Yeah.
But every trigger pulled a really stiff hammer.
You were cocking the hammer
as you're pulling it. Hammers,
and then eventually dropping the hammer,
going back, and then all of a sudden go bang.
Yeah.
Oh, so there was
there was so much trigger
every single time. So it didn't recock it automatically.
Right. Exactly.
No. So how do you hold a aiming point when it's doing that?
No, you have to hold a aiming point and pull the trigger. Kapow!
Right. And the worst thing is it trains you to anticipate it, which is the worst thing you can ever do.
Because then you're moving the thing.
And so it's like you just start cranking on it, and then you just basically make sure the sight falls on your target at the last possible moment.
Oh, that's stupid.
It's really bad. And I've shot that gun too, and I've been shooting my whole life. And I will tell you, that double action only Smith was my least favorite gun ever to shoot.
You're like, potato guns have better accuracy than
and it was really bad because you couldn't, I've had a lot of guns that were double action only for the first round, which puts the gun into battery.
A double single.
And then a double single. And then every other shot after that is single action because it's cocked itself.
Unless you fully release the trigger. Right. So a lot of them, you might have a bang, and but you can go bang, 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 bang.
Yeah. Right. So I've had a lot of guns that were that way, and it's weird because it's never the same trigger pull twice kind of thing, and I understand the problem there. Going DAO, double action only, is
but also too, there was no way to cock it.
No.
So like, let's say, I have a little bit of time.
The only way to cock
I couldn't cock it and make it a single. No, there was only
so there was no physical hammer that you could pull.
There was a physical hammer,
but you couldn't pull it.
But you couldn't cock it.
Right.
You couldn't set the hammer.
Couldn't set the hammer.
Well, that's
and I'm a 1911 person, which is a whole different podcast. But like that gun drove me crazy. I hated that gun with every fiber of my being. Yeah, exactly. You know what? And you can't convert it to make it cool. There's no way to convert it to make it awesome.
It was actually a nice gun. It was all stainless steel and everything.
Beautiful gun.
But
good paperweight.
Yeah, throw it at somebody.
I would not. If you told
it would
me
keyhole the bullets at a certain distance. Yeah, it would put a big hole in the paper.
Yeah, was that 40 caliber?
It was not 9mm. It was tumbling
weird.
a 9mm.
So weird. That's so weird. Anyway, that's weird. I don't want to. Every time we talk about guns, we lose 19 fucking podcast listeners.
That's enough.
Okay,
goodbye.
On our way out.
So I want to buy the 9mm barrel conversion for my Glock 22.
Oh, yeah, very good idea. I think that's a great. I think you should do that. That's a good idea. I do want to thank. We do have new Patreons for some strange reason. I have no idea.
I love listener emails and stuff. How's Rand doing?
We haven't heard from Rand this week, but what I would like to call attention, if I would.
Did anybody like the flaming?
Yeah.
Everyone
Knievel?
loved the flaming. Okay, so our Evil Knievel shenanigans last week at the end of the podcast. If you don't know, go back last week, 292. Watch the video. It's lots of fun. We also have Cleveland Moto After Dark.
Exposed.
Cleveland Moto After Dark. Cleveland Moto Exposed. We had a blast here the other night.
That was fun.
We just had too much fun for being grown-ass adults.
We should have explosives, though.
We have.
We should probably bring some explosives.
I
agree.
watched a video on how to make gasoline mortars, and we're going to do that.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So to give you an idea, this morning, today at 9:26 a.m., pompous former hot dog vendor became a $10 a month patron with a hotline number already sent out to him.
Thank you, Pompous One.
Pompous former hot dog vendor, Jonathan Fergrosa. That's his real name, Jonathan Fergrosa.
Thank you, John.
He became a $10 patron member.
You demand.
Adam Hockenberry. So Adam Hockenberry became a $10 patron member. And
I've lost
Cody.
A girlfriend for a Hockenberry.
Exactly.
I'm saying.
If you catch them early in season, you get 2 for 1. They're you got a little extra Hockenberry. Cody Denton also this month. So those are our $10. Those are the hotline members for this month of August. So we're going to thank you guys for being hotline members. This will be.
Can you send us a bottle of bourbon next time?
Yeah, that'd be better. Let's do that.
No, but with this money, we can buy bourbon.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, that's true.
And actually, right now, we're no shortage of bourbon. We're looking pretty good on the bourbon.
I'm not really drinking bourbon.
So those are our awesome.
Those are the interesting podcast when you drink bourbon.
No, when you drink, you drink.
It is true.
When we get sloppy, sewer guy, that's a good fucking.
Okay, we're drinking bourbon. We're drinking bourbon and speculator.
So I'm going to let you guys know for podcast number 294, because 293 is right now. 294, we're going to talk about the differences between a Yamaha 250 LC versus an RG 250 Gamma.
Okay.
Sure. What are they? Well, what they both are is 2 strokes.
2 strokes, right?
And what they both are is there's one that's a Yamaha, and there's the other one is a bike you'd kill your mother to have a ride on.
Right.
So that's the difference between the two. So it is a very interesting conundrum because yes, a Gamma. I used to kind of go out with a girl that rode a Gamma.
Really?
Wow.
You know,
A girl.
Oh.
Not that that's so bizarre.
Didn't Johnny Crone
I didn't go out with her. She's a friend, but yeah, she rode a Gamma.
Well,
No,
she's
a
a
Gamma. I thought he found a Gamma on.
What's that?
Didn't Johnny Crone just almost find a Gamma?
I don't know. She had a 250 Gamma. I never rode it.
Highly unlikely that Johnny Crone would be buying a 250 Gamma.
But he was into that stuff. He
I
was.
get it,
Right,
but he's
yeah.
not much
Yeah, I
into
could look it up.
motorcycles right now.
Yeah,
he's
it's true.
doing
It's not a Model A.
Model T
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah, that's fair. That's what it is.
Well, I
So
could be wrong.
yeah.
I'm frequently wrong.
Well, there you go. But
But you admit
Anyway.
it. That's why we love you.
I want to go smoke a cigarette.
we're gonna call it, man. That's it. Anybody got
I
anything
think
else?
it is.
Fuck it. Ride fast and take chances.
2 hours
and 30 minutes of quality entertainment.